I'll call the Newmarket Town Council Business Meeting to order June 1st at 7:26 p.m. And the first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, just want to give everyone a heads up, especially the people in the back. The mics are not working in this room. They are working on TV. They can hear us on TV. We're going to try to speak up. If you don't hear us, give us a wave, okay? And before we go into public forum, Councilor Glennon would like to speak.
Yes, I would. Thank you, Madam Chair. Back on, was it May 18th, I believe, we had a workshop. And during that workshop, I inadvertently made a statement or a comment under my breath. It was picked up by the mic, and it was reflecting to Councilor Brian Hart. And I want to make a public apology to Mr. Hart, Councilor Hart, for the comment I made. It was not meant to be malicious or anything. It's just one of those things when something doesn't agree, you tend to make a comment. And I did that, and it was picked up by the mic, and people thought it was actually Councilor Hart that made the comment. He did not make the comment. I made the comment, and I offer you my apologies.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Glennon. Okay, the next item on the agenda is public forum for non-agenda items only. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak? Mr. Velonica and then Mrs. Berger.
I don't know, Renan did this once, so maybe I can do this. Just letting you know that, the kids' fishing derby is coming up, Father's Day. Ticket sales are going a little bit slow, so I hope people have an opportunity to, the raffle tickets are, and first prize is 40 pounds of lobster, and it goes on down from there. Just letting, and hope to see some of the councilors at this. This is probably one of the biggest days in Newmarket. You usually run up around 200 kids, plus 150 parents and grandparents, grandkids. It's a great thing. It's one of the best in the state, and we spend a lot of money. It's $2,000 just for the fish we buy. But there's some nice 5-pounders in there. I tried to catch it, but I couldn't. So anyway, just let you know, and if you can call myself or there's other people if you want to buy some tickets. I sold about $5, $10, $20 while you guys were waiting. So I'm glad you had your session here. You had nothing to do but buy tickets. So anyway, just something that. I'd like to see you people down there.
Mike, how much are the tickets?
$5 for a book of 6.
Okay,
We
and
don't sell them by singles.
what time does it start? What time does it start?
Start at 7 o'clock in the
9
morning.
o'clock, 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
What,
Yeah,
official?
right. What a hoper.
Thank you, Mr. Velonica. Mrs. Berger.
Thank you.
Yes. I have two things that I wanted to discuss. The first one is the new noise ordinance and when that possibly will go into effect. As you all know, we're having a major construction next to out on Wadley Falls Road, and they start at 7 in the morning. Sometimes they start at 6:30, but they start at 7. They work till 4:30, but they're talking now about working on weekends. And if at all possible, my neighbors and I would like to see the ordinance passed so that they are permitted only to work Monday through Friday from 7:30 to 4, or 7 to 4:30, whatever it is. especially in the summer with the windows open and,
I'm sorry, did you say 4:30 or 4? I didn't.
well, whatever the hours are now, I think it's 7 to 4:30.
But it will be
7 to 9:30.
9:30.
No, 7 to 9.
7 days a week.
No, it could be. But what I'm asking for is it continue to be Monday through Friday, the hours that it is now, which is 7 to 4:30, I believe, or 7 to 4, whatever it is right now.
Okay, I know, we're workshopping that in this month,
Yeah.
correct?
The June 15th.
June 15th
Yep.
meeting.
So does that,
We haven't passed anything yet, and you're welcome to, I mean, we don't generally take public comments, but I've written down your concerns, and we need to work on it more, because it's, I mean, you're not the only person that's having.
well,
issues.
no, because I mean, my neighbors called me, so I said.
Well, I mean, not only that end of town, there's some in downtown, there's some up.
And I know there's different types of noise. I mean, there's restaurant noise, and that's
Right.
different from big machinery noise.
Yep.
So, okay. That's the first thing. Now, the other thing I wanted to address to Chairman Caprioli,
Yep.
because I can't seem to figure this out. I'm new to politics. I don't know how the system works. But I would just like an understanding, when you were on the planning board, you voted twice in favor of the elderly housing complex, and you also voted in favor of the DPW building. And it's my understanding that your paint company has the contract to do the painting on both those. And I'm curious as to how that happened.
Okay, I didn't vote on the fire department. I know I stepped down from that, and as far as,
Could you speak up? I can't
yeah,
hear
I'm
you.
sorry. As far as the 152 project, when that came out in reports, and we get reports like, the one's called Construction Summary. That came out February 21st, that went out to bid, and it came out that North Branch Construction was putting it out to bid. And my husband and I, and my son, and neighbors were in Florida, and our estimator bid the project. When she came back, and I can show you the sheet, I have it. When we came back from Florida, she told my husband what she'd bid that week, and she said she bid a elderly housing project, didn't mention where. There's several in the area going on, and anyway, to make a long story short, I found out in late April, I think, that we were low bid. We don't have a contract yet, Mrs. Berger. I assumed, because we were low bid, that we may see one, but it's been 6 weeks, I think, and we haven't got a contract yet.
Well, it was a pretty high-profile case, so I would assume that your estimator would have.
Yeah, but
Known.
5 years had also gone by, and 2 years since the last vote. So she was aware when the very first time it was before the board, and we didn't intend to bid it. And we followed a legitimate process. We didn't bid the owner, and
So you're saying, as far as my understanding of the political process, that is acceptable
yes,
for you to okay a project and then be awarded the work on that project?
yes.
It is acceptable.
I didn't bid the owner. Or I shouldn't say me. My husband or our company did not bid the owner.
You bid,
I don't know what that
North
means.
Branch Construction, general contractor. See,
so you're saying there was an intermediary between you and the developer?
correct, and what happens is,
But the
Mr.
developer works for Mr. Wetter, I believe.
Correct, and he puts it out to bid, and when the general contractor bids a project, they put the paint price in there, they put the electrical, they put the plumbing, they put everything else. And then they put it out to bid, and hopefully, someone comes in their numbers that they put out to bid. They've already bid what the painting's gonna cost. And if our numbers come in at theirs, as same as theirs or lower than theirs, then they're gonna take, me, whoever. It's the same for all trades.
But I believe Mr. Wetterer has the final say.
No,
That was
he
my
doesn't.
understanding from the construction
He
people.
does not on subcontracts.
Well, the foreman, Derek Finch, told me otherwise, but
Well, if Mr. Wetterow had any say in in this, then and he saw my name, I'm sure with the amount of problems he's had with that project, he would have definitely made sure that we didn't get the contract. And like I said, we don't have a contract yet.
Okay. That's all I wanted to ask. Thank you.
Mr. Connor.
I have several questions regarding the same project that are different. I think I ought to address the chairman first. I'd respectfully ask her to eliminate the smell by withdrawing their services. I don't think it's right, period, for anybody to vote for projects on a town council, the legislature, and then profit by those. We don't know if this is a one-year contract, multi-year. It stinks. Now, the questions I had that I really wanted to ask were regarding this sewer grant. My understanding was that we had a grant for $500,000 or so to bring the sewer from Grant Road up to this Section 8 housing you're building. And I know there's a 5% administrative fee, which is $25,000 or so. First question is, who gets the $25,000? The second question, I've been told that Underwood charged us $25,000 or so for engineering services, and that we put this out to bid. I'd like to know what the bids were and how much we're going to be short to get that sewer over or under the river or whatever. And if we are short, what's that going to cost the taxpayers, or how does the council propose to pay for it? I don't know. Who would have that answer? Al?
Yeah, Mr. Dixon, do you want to address that?
Yeah, I believe it's in my report. Trying
Is
to
that
find my...
report public, Al?
What?
Is that report a public report?
Sure.
Is that something we can have a copy of?
Yes, you can come in and see Kathy tomorrow, she'll make you a
Pardon me?
copy. You can come in and see Kathy tomorrow, and she can make you a copy, you know, in my office. The bid, and I'm just trying to find my report. It's $360,000. We have 500, or 409,000. The low bid is $360,303. And as I said to the council, the good news is that is under our estimates, even the estimates of the contractor. We have approximately 409,000 from the CDBG program, and we will have another 25%, $97,000 from the DES on this project. So we have a total of
Where's the second number from?
DES. Any sewer improvements that
That's
are
in our town budget?
no.
Department of Environmental Services.
Department of Environmental Services.
Yes, okay.
Yes. State offices. So we have approximately estimated around 97,000. That may vary a little bit because it depends on the bid and the construction. But in the beginning, when we started, we had 409,000 in a round figure from the CDBG program. And in a round figure, around 97,000 was estimated to be derived from DES. Now, that may vary when we turn in these bids, but not from DES, but not by a drastic amount. We'll be eligible for about 25%. At this time, I don't anticipate any overages. We have sufficient funds.
That sewer going to go over or under the river?
The sewer, there's going to be a gravity line from the housing project down to by the Gowans and by the bridge, okay?
Is it gonna go
Right across
under
from the
the
Lizelle.
river, or is it going to go over the river?
I can't honestly tell you whether the force main is going to follow the bridge or go under the stream, but
How much did we spend for the land for the pumping station there?
10,000,
10,000?
yes. And basically, I haven't looked at that aspect of the design, so I can't tell you. It's either going to be attached to the bridge, it's a force main from there to Grant Road.
Does that
or
make
it's
a
gonna go-
difference to you, whether it goes under or along the bridge?
I-
It does to me.
Well,
That's a water supply. If it's along the bridge, we have a car accident there, we've got a big problem.
Well, I just relied on the engineering plans, and the engineering plans were also have to be approved by DES, and they were approved. So I didn't get involved, whether it was going under or over or around.
Counselor Glennon? Oh, I'm sorry, it's really the public, unless you have a comment to,
No, I did have a comment regarding Debbie Berger's, just a point of clarification.
okay.
On the, going back to your question on the painting contract, are there any, you said you were the lowest bid that you knew, okay.
That's what we were told, but
Okay.
we don't have a contract yet.
Yeah, no, I know that. Are there any federal funds being used in this project? Because if there are federal funds, the bidding has to be open to the public.
I have no idea.
I guess I would ask for a point of clarification, just so there'd be a protection of interest here.
Well, and not to, I don't want to take up the public's
Right.
time, but I mean, I called my attorney and I called Counselor Hart, or Chairman Hart at the time, and he didn't see an issue, and he told me to call Malcolm and to make sure, and I did that. So I got two legal opinions.
Okay.
Anybody else?
That's all I
I'm
have.
sorry, Mr. Connor, are you all set? Are you done? Okay.
I'd like to see you withdraw your business.
I
I
will-
don't think you should profit.
I understand how you feel, Mr. Connor, I
think
do.
that's the right thing to do, Lorraine.
I will talk to
And
my
I think most of
husband.
voters think it's the right thing to do.
I will talk to
And
my
I hope the
husband.
voters recognize that.
Thank you. Mr. Alpern?
I have here a copy of the oath that all of you town councilors have to swear when you take office. And unfortunately, the one I have has Brian Hart's name on it, so I'd like to read it. It's quick.
Yep.
I, Brian Hart of Newmarket, do solemnly swear that I will bear faith and true allegiance to the United States of America and the state of New Hampshire, and will support the Constitution thereof, so help me God. I, Brian Hart of Newmarket, do solemnly and sincerely swear and affirm that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent on me as town council member, according to the best of my abilities, agreeably to the rules and regulations of this Constitution and the laws of the state of New Hampshire, so help me God. I bring that up because, as you're all aware, back in January, I handed out a copy of a state law that says that all municipalities must have a board of cemetery trustees. And you people worked on it diligently for several months, and when it finally came to vote, a current sitting town councilor dishonored this oath and violated this oath by deliberately voting against this state law. I would like to see this town council investigate the situation and determine if there are any applicable disciplinary actions to be taken.
Mr. Alpern, did you know that we're talking about that ordinance again tonight, correct?
This has nothing to do with the ordinance. This is the fact that a councilor dishonored and violated his oath of office by voting against that ordinance. That's what
and
this is.
that's
That's
it.
all this is.
Okay, can you just refresh my memory? Do you know the meeting date?
January 5th. Oh, you mean the meeting date where it was voted upon?
Yeah,
No, I don't know that meeting date. It was,
okay, all right,
With-
that's,
but-
I can, okay.
so basically, as you can see in this oath of office, you're all sworn to uphold the laws of the state of New Hampshire. You were all aware that this was a law of the state of New Hampshire. And one current sitting town councilor deliberately violated and dishonored his oath of office. And that needs to be investigated and find out if there is any disciplinary action to be taken.
Thank you.
That's all.
Counselor Hart?
That was voted on May 4th. I think Jerry's talking about you, just so you know. Because you and Scott voted against it, and I'd have to strongly disagree. I voted for it, and I just wanted to address that because there's several different ways the council had the ability to meet state law. One of them was creating the committee. One of them was designating the town council as the committee. I believe Councilor Hamel was of the mind that the council should be the committee. So if he wanted to vote against the ordinance and then put forward an ordinance that does what he would believe would meet state law, That's within his rights. So I don't agree, and I wouldn't support anything to formally investigate it. It would be a waste of our time.
Thank you, Counselor Wolford Hamel.
That just about answered my question, my answer.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Public? Okay, I'll close the public forum at 7:46 PM. And the next item on the agenda is Town Council to consider acceptance of minutes. May 4th, 2005 business meeting.
I make a motion to accept the May 4th, 2005 business meeting minutes.
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion or corrections? Counselor Hart.
Are you ready?
Let's go.
Okay, on the first page, L-chip is LCHIP,
Yes.
and it's a couple times like that,
Yep.
just so it's a good acronym.
Where are you, Counselor?
It says
First paragraph.
L-chip. Should say LCHIP. And then on page 7, during the non-public session, I participated in the beginning and then left. I was not there for the entire non-public.
That's right.
Where are you? What page?
Page 7. So I left after the first I left
Almost immediately.
before 10:49 and left the building, went home. Watched the Red Sox while you guys stay
That's
here.
right, I remember that.
So,
I was sick.
so I was not present for the final 3 motions
I know.
on page 8.
Mhm. I got it.
That's the only changes I saw. Thank you.
So a non-public 9 and 10. You were not here.
The motions on page 8. Page 8 I wasn't present for.
Okay.
I believe you left within the first few minutes.
Okay, so the motion was to accept the minutes, but not as amended.
Well,
You want it as amended?
as amended now, please.
Okay. Anybody else? Administrator Dixon, can you call the roll?
Counselor Hart.
Aye.
Counselor Morrison.
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Glennon.
Aye.
Counselor Jarvis.
Abstain?
Counselor Jerry Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Caprioli.
Aye.
Motion carries. 1 abstention.
Okay. May 16th, organizational meeting.
I make a motion to accept the May 16th minutes.
Second it.
I have a change on page 5.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry.
That's okay. On page 5, the nomination for Janice Rosa for the Open Space Commission didn't receive a second, so there was no roll call vote called.
That's
so
right.
it should be that all
That
those
should be
roll call
eliminated.
vote there should be removed. That's the only change I saw, Madam Chair.
Anybody else?
I don't know if I should have been under there as present when the meeting started, because it's got Scott Foster there, but then,
Did they show you after you take your, I'm sorry, you can't hear?
Can I ask you just a question? When somebody extends for voting, don't they have to give a reason?
Yeah, by the
It's
chair.
not, you have to give a reason. You can't just say,
Thank you.
By the chair.
the reason I abstained was because I wasn't on the council when that meeting happened.
oh yeah, I wasn't.
You need to say that.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't, yeah. Just to make everything legal.
Thank you. All right, go ahead, Jen. You had a question about whether you should be up there. Yes, I think she should be up there as attended the meeting, right?
Oh, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, I didn't.
And then it should be reorganized as who's chair and vice chair.
Yeah. I'm wondering if she just relied on the motions. Okay. Anything else? please call the roll.
Counselor Hart,
Aye.
Counselor Morrison,
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel,
Aye.
Counselor Glennon,
Aye.
Counselor Jarvis,
Aye.
Counselor Jerry Hamel,
Aye.
Counselor Caprioli.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And the last set of minutes is the May 18th workshop.
Make a motion to accept the May 18th minutes.
Second.
I had some changes, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Hart.
On page 2,
Counselor Hart.
on page 2, the, after that first big paragraph where it says Counselor Glennon and Counselor Wolford Hamill withdrew their motion, I don't think the motion was quite to bring the proposal for the ambulance building to the July 20th workshop. It was a little bit more explicit to state, to authorize the town administrator to work with Mr. Clark, Jim Hilton, seniors, and other people, and bring forward a proposal at the July 20th workshop. Something like that. It went back and forth, but there was the idea of creating the committee. We kind of backed away from that and said if people on the council want to participate, you're free to go and meet and work with them. That's how I remember it.
With Mr. Clark and other interested parties, I believe, or something like that.
Right, and I had indicated I would be
Yeah.
representing as the council. Yeah, that's correct.
And then on number 2, discussion of ordinance 2005-05 on the same page. It says in here paper a lot, and I think it's pay per bag. Pay per bag. So that needs to be revised to make it clear that we're not talking about paper bags, because we're not eliminating paper bags, we're limiting the pay. The idea was the pay per bags was the
Right.
topic of discussion. And,
Yeah.
and on page 4, number 3, discussion of ordinance 2005-06, regulation of dogs. The second line in the discussion, the last word. Clay Mitchell suggested the town council add the following locations to not allow dogs, but those are the locations to allow dogs off leash.
That's what I thought.
Tuttle Swamp, Wigan Farm, Heron Point, Loisel. So those are the locations that we are considering allowing dogs.
Heron
Not-
Point too?
Yes,
We were
by leash.
by leash.
Yeah, see, this is getting all mixed up.
I know, because when I read the, I have lots of questions, the ordinance is kind of confusing and different too. Okay.
So- Let me, why don't you, I'll look at the ordinance to make,
Okay.
because it's 4 specific properties. It's definitely Tuttle Swamp, Wigan Farm, but
I
after that, I
have it
can't
because I
remember.
highlighted it.
Council Hamill agrees that it probably was Heron Point.
Oh, there's that memo from Clay.
It says, "No person, firm, or corporation shall allow any dog to be present while in the geographical confines of the town of Newmarket Parks conservation areas except for the following locations: the Landrock Field, Beanie Howcroft, William Fields, Heron Point, Piscasket River Boat Launch." Then in
Yeah.
smaller print, it says Tuttle Swamp, Wigan Farm, and the Loisel properties have been taken off the list for town council to consider these 2 locations as off-leash for dog owners.
So what it was then, it was to allow dogs in Tuttle Swamp, Wiggins Farm, Heron Point. No, excuse me. Yeah, it's 2, Tuttle Swamp, Wigan Farm are 1 property. Heron Point, Loisel, and Piscasket River. That's correct. But it's just not. The word not shouldn't be there.
Right, okay.
That's the only thing.
Word not.
On the second line, the last word not shouldn't be there.
Okay, where are you, Brian?
Page 4,
Yep.
the second line underneath the discussion, the last word not. That's all.
Just take out the not.
Yes.
Are you all set, Brian?
Yes, thank you.
Counselor Jarvis?
Second page on the bottom, right after we're talking about the pay per bag, it says both plastic and pay per bag should be looked into. I remember saying we were gonna look into plastic bags.
You're on page 2 still.
Yep, on the bottom of page 2.
I think
The last sentence, both plastic and paper bags should be looked into.
Oh, yeah.
I think what we were looking into was, can we have pay per bag system for recycling and for trash?
Right, but that's not what it says, so
That's not what
we
it
just
says,
need to
yeah.
clarify that.
We were gonna start charging for the plastic through a bag process.
For the recycling.
Right.
That was something to discuss, yeah.
Right.
Maybe if you just scratch that sentence, it clean it up.
The whole
well
sentence
enough.
should come right out.
Did you get that, Al?
This one. Both plastic and paper bags should be looked at.
Just drop it. Delete, okay. Got it.
Okay, and I just have one more. On the bottom of page 3, number 5, the motion, where we authorized Al to bring forward a formal resolution at the June 1st, 2005 business meeting.
Yeah.
I didn't see it on the agenda for tonight. So I don't know if that's just a date that we needed to change on there, or whether we just authorized him to bring it tonight and we just didn't get that far, or?
Go ahead, Administrator Dixon.
You authorized me to bring it forward tonight. I did in the following days. I usually do. I have a staff meeting at 11 o'clock, and I go over everything that needs to be done. Excuse me. That slipped through the cracks. So there is no problem. You've authorized the transaction. I'll bring that to you to the business meeting in July, okay? I'm sorry about that.
Should we just change it to July, or no, this?
Yeah, the
No,
numbers are
leave it.
right.
That's the way you voted.
That's the way we voted. That's- Got it. That's it. Thank you.
Anybody else? No? Okay, please call the roll.
Counselor Hart?
Aye.
Counselor Morrison?
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel?
Aye.
Counselor Clennon?
Aye.
Counselor Jarvis?
Aye.
Counselor Jerry Hamel? Counselor Capistrelli?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, next item on. Okay. Next item on the agenda, 4A, public hearing on land lease agreement with Cellco Partnership doing business as Verizon Wireless. Is there a representative from the, yes, sir. Please come on up to the mic and.
Madam Chairman, honorable councilors, my name is Tom Hildreth. I'm the attorney for Verizon Wireless, speaking to the proposed transaction tonight. May I approach the bench and share
Sure.
these
Yep.
background documents with you? We had a similar meeting with the town council in the town of Durham on May 16th for a similar purpose. These background materials were the same things that we provided to that group. Essentially, this is kind of the substantive rationale for why we're proposing a wireless communications facility on town-owned land in Newmarket. The town-owned land that is in Newmarket happens to be adjacent to some town-owned property in Durham. This is on Simon's Lane, on the border between the two towns. And because of the way the Newmarket GPS access to it would be afforded over the town of Durham, what I've handed out is a brief affidavit from a radio frequency engineer for Verizon Wireless, and attached to it are 3 color coverage maps. One of them shows a picture of existing coverage from sites that are on air today, showing Newmarket centered on the page with a relative lack of signal. The second page shows the predicted coverage from a site on the Newmarket town-owned property on Simon's Lane at 180 feet. And then the third coverage map shows the composite coverage when you put together the existing coverage with that which you would get from this proposed site. The other thing that I've provided is a reduced size of a site plan, still in early stages of working up, but pages C2 of the plan kind of gives you a good overview of how the access would come in off of Simon's Lane, crossing property in the town of Durham, winding up to the leased compound, proposed lease site in the town of Newmarket. The proposal calls for a lease of 10,000 square feet, a 100 by 100 foot square, and you can see on page C2 of the plan that we would construct within that 100 by 100 foot square essentially a 60 by 60 foot fenced compound to contain the tower and the ground-based equipment of Verizon Wireless and whatever other carriers wanted to co-locate there. And then the next page, A1 of the plan set, is a closer view of the tower compound itself. showing the proposed Verizon Wireless equipment shelter, and then essentially dotted line placeholders for up to 3 additional co-locators. And on the left side of that page of the plan set is the profile of the proposed monopole tower, 180-foot structure with the Verizon Wireless antennas at the top, and then room for up to 3 other commercial carriers below it. This is a site that may have some familiarity to some of you because about a year ago, T-Mobile was at a very similar stage in discussions with both towns on the same site. As a matter of fact, we just got the CAD program for the T-Mobile plans and transformed them for Verizon Wireless use. T-Mobile went through some business reconfigurations and wasn't building in New England for a time. But as a matter of fact, now that they know that we're interested actively in this site, they would like to be a co-applicant as well. So there would be 2 carriers on air immediately with prospects for the additional carriers who are active in this area down the road. This is a site that's probably very familiar to you, not this particular land necessarily, but this proposed use. This would be a very standard wireless communications facility. These are unmanned structures. This would not be lit or marked, generates no noise, odors, dust, fumes, traffic. Each carrier would have a couple of maintenance visits to the site on a monthly basis to check on equipment, service equipment, and so forth. So once the tower was constructed and up, it would generate very little activity within the neighborhood. And the construction itself tends to be confined to a period of not more than 30 days from start to finish in most cases. Let's see, there are a few kind of public benefits I wanted to bring to your attention. The 1996 Federal Telecommunications Act encouraged commercial wireless carriers to locate facilities on publicly owned property when that's possible. And this presents an opportunity to provide some rental income to not 1 but 2 municipalities. The New Hampshire legislature in 1998 passed a statute, RSA 362:6, which is a statute which exempts from the Public Utilities Commission jurisdiction over the deployment of wireless communications facilities. But in the preamble to that statute, it says that it's the finding of the general court that it would be a good thing for the public to have and to encourage the rapid deployment of this technology throughout our state. And so therefore the state kind of keeps its hands off of siting issues. For the 2 towns involved and the citizens of those towns, we would expect improved coverage in service, as illustrated by the coverage maps. The towns would both receive rental income, so in your capacity as landowners, we'd be paying you rent. Not only would Verizon Wireless pay you rent, but we've negotiated a lease that would also give you a share of sublease revenue as additional carriers come on to the tower. In addition, there's tax revenue that'll be paid based on the assessed value of our properties at the site. And we also offer routinely mounting platforms for communications devices for the town's municipal needs at no cost if your communications network ever would require that in that location. When we were in Durham, having this conversation with the Durham Town Council, many people spoke in opposition to the plan. The opposition is not unlike the kind we typically hear at the planning board stage, having to do with concerns about traffic, visual impact, wildlife, health effects, property values, so on and so forth. We would fully expect to be put to our proof and have to address all of those issues, not only in the Newmarket Planning Board process, but also in the Durham Planning Board process. I don't think that those are, first and foremost on your mind tonight. I think that we're talking tonight about the town council's role as the owner of this land and whether this is a sensible use of this land, for your purposes as landowner. Not to say that you wouldn't have an opportunity to weigh in on those other issues, because you're certainly a welcome participant in the planning board process, and we'd have to go through the process in both municipalities. Additionally, RSA 12K provides that we would have to provide notice to every community within a 20-mile radius of the proposed tower site, so other municipalities could weigh in as well. I expect you'll hear some of those discussions tonight, and I can address the substance of each one, if you care to hear that discussion, but I think that's more a discussion properly relegated to the planning board. I guess I would end by saying that I've been working with Verizon Wireless since 1994. I've permitted over 200 facilities in about 150 New Hampshire municipalities. We've seen almost every possible combination of neighborhood and land use type and tower type and so forth. And I've got a very successful track record in citing these things in a way that I think most participants feel good when the process is over. And I think if you let the process proceed, that people will not be unhappy with the results that the planning board will deliver. Unless there are particular questions for me about the proposal or the lease or other aspects that I could address, I'd be happy to answer them.
At this time, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to give the public an opportunity to speak. This isn't the planning board process, this is just the authorizing, not authorizing, but whether the town council signs a lease or not, that's. So, is there anyone from the public who'd like to speak?
Good evening. My name is Nancy Pagnotta. I'm a Durham resident. I live on Simons Lane, but I'm also very much a community member here in Newmarket as I teach here. And I do look out and take to my heart the kids of this community. So I'm going to speak to you on about a couple of things that came up at the last meeting, and I do appreciate your hearing us, even though that wasn't a public meeting. And I need to let you know that I wasn't aware that wasn't a public meeting until after the meeting had ended, that you were gracious enough to hear from us anyway. I'd like to address a few points in response to the council comments the last time that we were here. In response to Mr. Foster being concerned about if Newmarket's town didn't put up the cell tower, that people such as ourselves, and these are his words, the Pagnottas could sell their home property to Verizon, and that the tower could be put up anyway. The town of Durham has ordinances in place that would prohibit that from ever occurring. And more importantly, I couldn't and I wouldn't do that because of my conscience, which leads to the next point, which we addressed when we were here the last time. This doesn't belong in a neighborhood, and Simons Lane is a neighborhood. Imagine when I'm giving home directions to my home, I say, take a right at the cell tower. That's pretty huge. I mean, I don't want that to be a landmark on my road. I am affected in that I feel a connection to Newmarket community. As a teacher here, often I refer to Newmarket as my home. I feel I play an important and valued role in this community and have been called on to help the community in any number of ways. By placing this tower in this area, you will put Pulaski residents, our Newmarket students, at risk of getting hurt. I feel this is an open invitation to trouble. It will literally be placed in their backyard. You made an issue of the height of the tower and camouflaging it to look like a tree. It's still a cell tower. But I stood here and I asked you about the magnitude of the base of the tower, and this was not addressed. When OmniPoint put its plan forth last year, to the public, it claimed that the base had to be 100 by 100 feet in order to support such a tower. Just so that everyone is aware, that would look like 1/3 the size of an official size football stadium. Imagine 1/3 the size of Gillette Stadium. That's what 100 by 100 feet would look like. It would consist of a cement base enclosed by a barbed wire fence with generators running the equipment. How many generators would be needed, as this gentleman here said, for additional collators, I believe he calls them, to be placed on that tower? Mr. Hart, at that time you were the chairman, you said that you were more concerned about crude oil and propane and its safety in this neighborhood. Well, why was the Newmarket Council not thinking about that when propane was approved? I question what kind of ordinances are in place to protect the citizens of Newmarket. I learned a long time ago that two wrongs don't make a right. So just because Prue Oil is there doesn't mean a tower belongs there. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody else? Mr. Volodka, I think you were next.
Yeah, I'd just like to, could you pass along what shows the, where we would get actually better supply?
I mean, the location of the lot.
I know, the range.
Oh.
Where we get. Thank you.
My name is Wendy Monroe. I'm the Executive Director of Great Bay Kids Company. We were formerly known as the Newmarket Child Care Centers. I'd like to thank the council for allowing us to put this to a public hearing so that we could voice our concerns. I also appreciate you allowing us at the last meeting to speak, as we realized that it was an option for you to do that. Great Bay Kids Company is celebrating our 38th year in the child care business this year. We are a direct abutter to the proposed site of the cell tower. We are located on 3 Simons Lane. Many call us just a daycare, but we are much more than that. We provide quality educational programs for children within our community, programs that are affordable for parents. We provide a safe place for parents to send their children. We provide jobs for teachers who are well educated. For many parents, this is the first experience their child may have in a structured learning environment, an environment that prepares children for elementary school. Children often call our center their school. Many children meet their first real friends at our center. My concerns for the cell tower include the following. I continue to hear that this is the best place for the cell tower, and I wonder, is this the best place for whom? For Verizon? It's certainly not the best place for the residents of Simons Lane or for the children who play within 300 feet of the proposed tower. During a public hearing concerning the cell tower held in Durham last month, the question was asked by a town councilor to a representative, who I do not believe is here this evening, from Verizon. Could this tower be placed somewhere else? And the answer was basically this, and I'm not quoting, that it was a 2-for-1 site, meaning that it provides 2 different coverage sites. He also said that they could erect 2 separate towers, one at a location in Newmarket and one at a location in Durham, that would provide the same type of coverage to people. Do we really want Verizon to get a 2-for-1 special at the expense of the children and neighbors that live in this residential area? I say I don't think so. I also have a question for the town councilors. Newmarket was talking about the fact that it would produce income from the town, and I think it's fair to ask the taxpayers of Newmarket how much income for the town and what would it do for those taxpayers. I also asked what income is currently being made on the existing towers that are in town. The bottom line for me is that a business that's been providing a vital need in this town for over 30 years will be affected by the installation of a cell tower right next door. I urge you to vote against this contract with Verizon in order to lease land located on Simons Lane, but instead to look at more appropriate options. I am certainly not standing here tonight saying that there should be no cell towers in the town of Newmarket. I agree there should be. I was asked by a reporter one evening after a meeting if I owned a cell tower. And I don't own a cell tower, sorry. If I owned a cell phone. And the answer to that is yes, I have a teenager and I own a cell phone, like many people, I'm sure. That's not the issue. The issue is not that I don't want a cell tower in Newmarket, and I don't think that's the issue for many people. It's just, let's look at where we're going to put it. And do we think that in the middle of a residential area, in an area where there are children at a child care center, is that the appropriate place? So I ask you to think about that when you make your vote this evening. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Yes, sir, come on in.
Hi, this is a copy of my letter. I'm not sure if it's appropriate.
Sure.
Pass them. My name is Joe Pagnotta. I'm also a resident of Simon's Lane, and before I speak, one of the things that just struck me this evening is, I guess, a tactic that I believe is occurring, and I think it's already starting to happen. As it was mentioned earlier this evening, at the Town of Durham meeting, there were many people from Simon's Lane. And I think and what ends up happening is there were many people there, and we have fought this with OmniPoint. We have fought this with T-Mobile. We fought this now. It's with Verizon, and I guess whoever else is going to be coming forward. And a story from one of my neighbors tonight is, she said to me, I'm conflicted. My husband's got to go to a meeting tonight, and I have a 2-year-old child. Should I take the 2-year-old with me, or should I stay home? So what's happening right now is, I want everybody to know here that there's a lot of support, and it's been proven over and over again, there's a lot of support in the Simons neighborhood area. But what's happening is, it seems like it's the Pagnottas tonight or Great Bay Kids, and I think it's part of a tactic. It's a tactic now of us constantly having to come to meetings in Newmarket and in Durham, of constantly having to deal with these carriers. And so that's one of the things I want you to know. It's not just the Pagnottas and Great Bay Kids. There's a lot of concern. I mean, people have gone out and got petitions signed. We had, several people just constantly fighting for this issue. It's an issue that's very important to Simon's Lane. And I just wanted to tell you some of the things that concern me. One is this, that we're going to continue to fight this battle with this large giant. The other thing is that I'm very concerned that this proposal of the cell tower will negatively impact our area and could sharply decrease our property values. The residential area that we are talking about, this is a huge structure, and I just don't want anybody to be foolhardy and underestimate its impact. And this is not just purely conjecture on my part, and I've said this to you on a couple of occasions as well. I've seen firsthand this like size of a tower in Madbury. And it is inconceivable to me, when walking that area, how this project is even being considered for Simon's Lane. Should tragedy strike this tower, it's only going to be feet away from a residence and the daycare center. Yet the argument we've given is that this is an ideal site for a cell tower. The bottom line is that the money generated by this project will be at the expense of the residents of Simon's Lane. Great Bay Kids will close. Our property values will dwindle, and the vitality of this neighborhood could be lost forever. What I'd like you to do is to just take these things into consideration, realize that the support and the staunchness of the people of Simon's Lane to continue to fight for this, and we really want to put an end to this discussion right now. We really want to protect our residents, we really want to protect our neighborhood, and we would like you to consider rejecting the cell tower for Simon's Lane. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay, I'd like to close the public hearing at this time, and the
Madam Chairman, sorry, any chance to offer any rebuttal?
I've had a couple of councils waiting, but I will call on you shortly. Councilor Glennon and then Councilor Wilford Hammond.
My first comment is to the attorney. I'm a stickler for getting information prior to a meeting. So dropping this off this evening like this, and not have a chance to look at it, I don't appreciate that, so I just want you to know that. Number two, listening to the daycare center, and I'll address the question to you, ma'am, do you know for a fact, you probably know from the parents saying that they're concerned, do you have a sense to whether you would have to relocate? Are you going to close? I mean, what's the sense there? Because that's very serious.
It's really a huge unknown, I think, to know what's going to happen. I mean, there are a lot of parents that are obviously concerned about this issue and having, like Brian said, crude oil on one side and then, you know, a cell tower on the other. We're sandwiched in between. It's not a really good selling point when somebody's coming in to look at our center to say, we're, you know, we have the cell tower on one side and crude oil on the other. It would be a very big issue for us.
I guess I'm going to say what other councils have said in the past, not just this council, but other councils have said in the past. We're not in the business of putting people out of business, but that certainly would be a concern of mine, that something like that would happen. And as I stated to you earlier, I'm one of the original directors, assistant board of directors of that daycare center, and I know how hard it was to get that thing off the ground. The attorney, I guess I'll ask you this question. Do you know if Verizon has checked other locations in town?
I believe, I can't say for certain, no.
Does it say on there they've checked other places?
The engineer's report, I believe, says they did evaluate several sites.
But what's the conclusion? Have you had a chance to read that, Counselor? Okay.
I can tell you that we always look at existing tower structures, and we always look at other structures of any height that might offer mounting platforms, and if they fall within the search radius that the RF engineers are trying to find a site in, those will be the places that we go first. And if there aren't any such sites, then we look at what's called a raw land site, which is what this one is. This one came to our attention initially because another carrier was actively involved in permitting it, and it's specifically listed as a permitted use in your ordinance. The ordinance specifically calls out this town-owned parcel on Simon's Lane by specific reference to its location to the daycare center. So we try to match, many things have to converge. A site has to have the right topography, it has to be in an area of need, it has to be land that's available, ideally it's land that's properly zoned. We don't build sites for the sake of plunking down steel on real estate.
No, I understand
very
that.
specific purposes.
I certainly fully understand it. I guess somebody here alluded to the fact that you could, and I guess I would ask your opinion on that. Is there a possibility of two towers in two different locations and get the same results?
I'm sure that there is some theoretical combination. But let me say this, because I have this discussion all the time. Someone says, can you do it in another location? And it's kind of like the can you hear me now guy. We could stand where that tower is proposed to go, and we could walk a foot in any direction, and it would still work there. And we could walk 2 feet, 3 feet, 10 feet, 20 feet, 100 feet. There's a radius within which it works at that location. Once you get out of that radius, though, and it's not a large radius, then you're talking about losing coverage somewhere and having to make it up somewhere else. Nobody has explored a two-site alternative here. I will tell you that the given economics of a geography, the customer base, the traffic we expect the site to generate is a limiting factor in some areas. We have an FCC license mandate to provide coverage, minimum levels of coverage to a defined percentage of our territory. And when we have no coverage, as that first map indicates, we're not meeting that obligation. So we're trying to establish a presence where there isn't one now. These sites cost each carrier about $1 million apiece to put up in terms of the tower steel and the electronic equipment in the base buildings. There's only so much capital dollars to go around. We're clearly trying to cover as much footprint as we can with a given structure. So I don't know all the permutations of multiple
But given
towers.
the fact that there's an outcry from that neighborhood, from that business, from those residents, it almost to me would behoove you or Verizon to be looking at maybe two sites. And again, I know there's money there, there's a cost factor there, but let's face it, Verizon is up there with the Fortune 100s, so it's not like they haven't got the money. Let me just finish up, I give the other councilors a chance. We did ask them to go back, I believe, at one meeting, to come back with us with a design concept of a form of a tree. Is that,
We talked about that at the workshop, I think.
we asked them to come back though, didn't we?
No, they weren't here.
We said monopole or camouflage. This is a monopole.
Right. Well, so are they looking at a camouflage one, or is this what you're presenting tonight is what they're gonna do?
That's our proposal, but again, you know, I would expect that there will be a process through the planning boards, both towns, where one or both towns may retain an independent RF expert who will evaluate our coverage maps, will evaluate T-Mobile's coverage maps, will evaluate, you know, reasonable possible alternative sites that bubble up through the process of a public hearing process, and we always look at those, you know, within reason. I mean, there comes a point where we say, you know, we can't explore every conceivable site that someone wants to keep suggesting.
Sir, I just realized, we have no recording secretary. It's very important that he come up to the mic, because nothing you're saying is being heard, I mean, on tape,
Or heard by the public on TV.
or by the public on TV.
No, I don't want to, you know, keep on going on this, because other councilors have questions too, but it just seems to me that, in goodwill to the people in that area, that Verizon would take the initiative to, you know, look at something. I mean, think about it this way. You can send a man to the moon, and you can bring him back, but you can't find another spot that's best to put a tower that's not going to infringe upon that whole entity out there.
It's my hope that through the process, through the evidence that will be presented to the planning board, that I think that the director of the daycare center, she has made the point that, I'm sorry, it's an unknown. There's a lot of fear that speaks at this stage in a process. I've seen it, and I don't want to magnify my, you know, what else I've seen, but I've been in 150 New Hampshire towns. I've heard exactly that kind of comment. I've seen people kind of come to understanding when they see the evidence, and have a dialogue with us that the planning board process permits of, and we're not unwilling to look at alternative designs. I did a design in Hollis, which was of a fire watchtower. It's in the view shed of the most expensive subdivision in town. All of the homes were built after the tower was in place. We have a tower in Hollis that's in the Historic District Commission, Historic District area. You know, some very fine old homes in town. There's a tower on Shakespeare Hill in Nashua, which is smack dab in the middle of a residential neighborhood. There's a tower on the roof of the central office in Portsmouth, 15 feet away from an elderly housing facility.
Okay.
You know, I can go on and on.
Yeah, I understand your point. Counselor Hamel, Wilford Hamel?
Yes, it does.
It works for TV.
I had 3 or 4, pardon my voice, 3 or 4 short ones, Lorianne. Myself, when it comes to people's backyards, I think we could search the world over and never find the proper backyard. It's tough on people. I have a backyard. It's, people are doing what they want next to it. I have nothing to say about it. So I know the feeling. Is there anything, Mr. Chairman, that would prevent us from having a site walk? There's, you can look at dimensions all you want, but we would see what these people are talking about. If we can't commit ourselves, you know, to a quick site walk to that neighborhood, I think it would be important.
I like that idea.
I do too.
Also, monies, taxes, you know, you can say, what's money? Well, money in my pocket is better than someone else's. When you look at money, tax dollar, or not tax dollar, but revenue from this situation, in some areas, these monies could be used to offset monies that we donate to different groups at times. Comes budget time in a season, we do donate. And this can offset it. My final remark here is, I have no disrespect towards the people in Durham. You've all done a very good job. You're good speakers. You represent yourself well. Last fall, I think it was, we sat, as a councilors, all us councilors, we sat downstairs and listened to a resident from Durham speak until he was so tired he almost passed out. Now we've got two more in here tonight. I appreciate their, their concern, but is this a new standard? Is this something else we're gonna shoot for, as having different townships come to the, I'd like an answer to that tonight, if it's possible. I'd like an answer to the site walk, and how many different townships we're gonna have come forth in front of us. Thank you.
As far as other towns, if they're butters, and they're welcome to come to the public hearing and speak. Yeah. It's a public hearing, that means I could go to Exeter and do the same thing, whether I live there or not.
I'm not,
Yeah.
but are you sure of this?
Yes.
As long as the chair recognizes.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you want to make a motion for the site walk? And, because Counselor...
If need be, I will.
Well, because Counselor Hart's light's on. I was going to either suggest, if you want to hold off a minute, let Counselor Hart speak.
Go ahead, sure.
Okay. Go ahead, Counselor Hart.
Thank you. I don't support the site walk. We did a site walk on the same exact site a year ago. At least the whole council was invited. I remember Counselor Foster and myself being there. Leo Fillion was there from the planning board.
I got there late.
You got there late.
I was there late, too.
So, and I don't see much changes from the impacts on the wetlands or the site location for the tower. So I personally won't find it necessary to go again, but if the council wants to do that, that's fine. I had a question for the attorney from Verizon about the contract.
Sure.
If we proceed with this, and then 20 years from now, cell towers no longer used, it's all satellite or whatever, some new technology, says that the removal of the structure is your responsibility, or whoever owns Verizon. And it says that the antenna structures, fixtures, all personal property except for footings will be removed, and the property will be otherwise restored to its original condition. So that means the access road will be removed, the fill taken out, and the property put back to, a working wetland system, and that's how I would interpret it. So I just hope you guys realize that.
Good question. We've got to do some wetlands permitting for this access road in the first place, and, I can't predict what will come of that process. For instance, if they say, we're going to let you fill X square feet, then you're going to, recreate some wetlands over here. I'm not sure that it would be sensible to reverse that process, so that may be something that bears greater thought.
And would Verizon be amenable to the town having the ability to not, right now you have sole control over extensions. You can decide not to extend or not. And that doesn't seem quite appropriate. So would Verizon be amenable to the town having the ability at certain periods, not every year, not to extend the lease for another 5-year period? It just seems...
Yeah, it has to go very high up in the organization to get approval for something like that. I thought you were going to say, would we be amenable to giving the town the right to require the tower to remain in existence if you wanted to use it for your own purposes? And we've done that in the past. But yeah, you'd have to tell me specifically what kind of time frame you had in mind. It's very difficult to work those in.
Well, I'm sure you have to think about some kind of payback for the significant investment in the actual tower, so.
Right.
If you're looking for that. And then, I guess, just if we're in discussion, a couple other comments. There's not very many sections of Newmarket that aren't residential. And the areas that are not residential aren't anywhere near where we need, where it has been identified as a gap in coverage. I don't own a cell phone. My girlfriend doesn't own one. My friends don't own one. So I really could care less about actually getting the coverage. I find them to be annoying. But I understand it's a modern convenience that majority of people use. And we as a town passed the ordinance that established certain areas because we didn't want them popping up everywhere. If we hadn't passed the ordinance that we have, they could be cited on Houghton's Hardware or any other property in town that, because we decided to put them on town property. So, there aren't very many town properties between this location and downtown. The next property I believe we own would be the Quonset Hut property on 108. And any tower that goes in that part of Newmarket would require Historic District Commission review, the State Historic Preservation Office to approve. And I highly doubt they'd ever approve any structure that would be of significant height to be able to locate and reach this area. That would probably have to be like 400 or 500 feet high. Because that part of Newmarket's lower than this part of Newmarket. And when they did the balloon for the previous company, they had to take photographs all along the Route 108 corridor down to that section to show that it wasn't visible from the historic district. And it wasn't. It was visible from the edge of the bowling alley building. That was the and you could see the balloon just barely. At least when I looked, that's where I last saw it. So I guess my point is that there isn't a good place by the terms that have been put forward by some comments for it because it's all residential in that part of Newmarket. If we did if Verizon, if we reject this and then Verizon pursued a 2-site location, that means the second site's going to have to be along Route 108 somewhere in Durham on all the land that's been protected by the state and federal government and by the town of Durham. And there's a lot of protected land along that corridor. And most people don't find a cell tower to be a scenic part of conservation land, and it's not allowed by most of those funding agencies. So I think that's never going to happen. So we're kind of put in a hard spot. I think there is a lot of fear about it, and I probably would have some of the same fears if it was near me. I do have a friend that lives right near the tower on 152, and he's never expressed concerns to me about the cell tower, and he just had a kid, and he's restoring his house. So I'm inclined to proceed with the location and support the contract. I probably would support requesting some changes to it. And I know that's it's not an easy decision, and I don't dismiss the comments from the Durham residents or from Wendy in the least. I think that your business will survive. It will change. You'll probably lose some customers, but I know from my friends who have kids that there's pretty much a waiting list at all the daycare facilities in the area. So supply and demand will continue to thrive.
Thank you, Councilor Hart. I have a question. Rights upon sale. I'm trying to read the legal lingo here. What would you would sell the tower? Is that what that's talking about?
I actually don't have my copy of the lease.
It's not, I'm sorry, it's number 15 on page 4.
I believe that's if we sell the tower, if we sell the land,
Okay.
they have the right to buy it from us.
Okay, all right, that answers that question.
The property would remain underneath this lease. So we could sell the land, but it would still remain subject to the lease.
Yes.
That's what that means, is to protect us in case you did want to sell the land. And if we didn't have a recorded notice of lease in the registry and you sold it to someone who was unaware of the lease, they could come in and terminate our lease, and all of our effort and investment would be gone.
And this lease is for 20 years?
It's for 5 years initially with multiple 5-year renewal options. That's what Councilor Hart was referring to.
Right, and the extensions.
It's 25 in the end.
Right.
And then there's later on, there's a additional, additional potential for additional extensions.
It gets, after it gets to the end of the period stated, then it kicks in, either party can prevent it from going further.
What's the purpose of having it 5 years and then 5-year extensions?
Well, I think you can answer that easier.
As opposed to just having one long 20-year term?
Well, why, I think, because I don't recall, but I think Verizon I'm sorry, T-Mobile was doing 20, and I didn't see the contract, because at that time, I don't recall.
You know, I don't know.
They're all 5-year, every contract we have at this point in time are all 5-year increments.
So, in 5 years, the town of Newmarket could say, no, we're not renewing the lease.
Not under the present lease, no. We could say we're not going to re-up. You know, we prefer to let it expire after the 5-year mark, and we'll take down our gear and go home. But if we don't do that, it goes forward for 5 more years, then 5 more years, then I think 20 is I think there's 3 5-year extensions after taking.
So how, as the landlord, so to speak, do we have control over how long you stay there?
You don't until we get to the end of that first phase of extensions, and then you do. You know, as long as we're performing.
Right, so if you violate the contract or an antenna falls off the tower or something, then you'd have cause.
That's all I have. Oh, Jen, I'm sorry. Counselor Jarvis?
By reading through this, I'm assuming that it was your company that wrote this lease agreement, because a lot of things favor Verizon.
Right.
So I was just curious as to who's read it. I mean, have we had legal advice on this?
I have a legal review, which we do on every contract, and I think most of the things we're going to be okay, but we're not talking about any substantial changes.
Okay, because I would think that I would like to see a substantial change as far as that 5-year lease goes, like you brought up earlier, Brian. It just seems like, I mean, in reading through this, I wouldn't feel comfortable agreeing to this land lease agreement, that I would want to go over it and then do a few changes about it. If we determine that, I mean, I've heard a lot of discussion about how this is the only place, but I've also recently gotten letters in my packet about other people's properties that are available, and I'm not sure if we've pursued those, or I just feel like we need to look into this a little bit more. That's all I'm going to say.
Counselor Morrison?
Hi, question for the attorney. We've been having he's right. We've been having issues with Verizon trying to get some telephone poles moved.
Different company.
Really? So it's a synonym.
What, are they moved? Oh, why didn't they have a little party?
Should have been something.
We should have had it already for 8 months.
Yeah.
In fact, I find this interesting. I mentioned we have Verizon Wireless has an antenna on the roof of the Verizon Communications central office in Portsmouth.
Great.
We had to negotiate that lease, just as hard as anybody doing business with Verizon Communications would. There is some cross ownership, but they are completely independent companies, and not even brother-sister companies.
Administrator Dixon?
Yes. I felt obligated to put those in the council, pass those communications from various residents to the council. And that would take some work by the council to amend the ordinance to allow that. Right now, the only properties that can situate or accommodate this type of facility are municipal. And I might add that I think every one of the people that have volunteered their properties, they would be right in the heart of a residential area also. So I would dare say we're up against the same arguments.
Counselor Hart?
The 2 letters in reference were received by me at home, and at least I think they were both to me, and I gave them to Al and asked them to be copied to the council. The one property owner is adjacent to the existing cell tower on Route 152, so that doesn't really address this area at all. Plus, we have a tower out there that's not at capacity, so it has more space on it. And the second landowner was on Ash Swamp Road, which is even farther out. So those 2 particular locations don't really, in my opinion, I'm not sure if they warrant investigation for this type of need.
There is a third on Route 108, and that's up by the industrial park.
That's right. Like a mile and a half from this location.
But that's a private residence that's offering, a private individual, not anyone affiliated with the industrial park. I believe you got the letters. Or the note from me, anyway.
In terms of this, the extensions, I can understand it needing to be, there's no way, I don't think we're gonna get it to be, that we can cut it off after 5 years or 1 year. And I don't, as a council member, I don't wanna have this council or future council have to address every 5 years. That's just,
I agree,
Not
but it's just the
appropriate.
point of having, we're the landlord, but we don't have control, and that's, I mean, yes, it,
well, let me finish. I was just gonna request that maybe we discuss what we'd like to see there. So if we wanna proceed, we have a better basis, and so the attorney can go back, and so we're not spending the whole summer negotiating this contract, that's all. If we're gonna proceed, let's get the changes that we wanna see, or have a non-public to discuss those changes, if we make a vote to proceed with the contract.
okay, does it have to be discussed in a workshop? I mean, non-public? I mean,
If
changes
you're
to the contract?
negotiating, if you're going to be negotiating different terms and things, yeah, you can, you typically, or you can sit here and try to negotiate it publicly, but I don't think it's that
Okay.
productive.
All right,
I'm only suggesting we do that if we vote to proceed with a contract.
okay.
We might wanna change the contract, but I think it would be good to make that decision.
All right. I believe Wilfred had wanted to make a motion. Dan, I'm going to, go ahead, one more. But I want to move this along, so.
I would concur with Councilor Hart, only in the sense, are you suggesting that we table this to a non-public to get the verbiage and the information we want in there?
No, not quite. I'm saying, let's make a decision on whether or not we want to have a cell tower there, and then if we do, figure out the terms afterwards. We got to make this decision. We just got to get it done, that's the most.
Don't want it there. Okay, thank
Council
you.
Wilfred Hamel, did you still want to make a motion for a site walk?
Well, if I might ask Brian, when you said you didn't care to go out for another site walk, did you mean you were satisfied with the site?
Well, I mean, I just meant that I participated in the site walk previously, and there's nothing in the plans that have changed or on the site that's changed. It's not like there's a new house or building nearby to warrant me seeing the site again. But if other people want to see the site, I totally understand that.
Was that the general feeling of those amongst you, or just yours?
I don't know. I didn't discuss people's opinion of the site while we were out there.
Well, I'd like to make that motion then.
I'll second that.
What motion is being made?
To have a site walk.
To have a site walk at the cell tower site on,
Simon,
no, date,
Okay.
June.
We're in June
Do you want to
now.
do it before our, this is March. Do it before our,
sure.
workshop on June 15th? Could get there at 6:30? Is that acceptable to other counselors?
Yeah, that's all right.
What was the date again?
June 15th?
June 15th is our workshop. Instead of just scheduling another night, we'll just, it's only 2 weeks away.
Do it like at 6:30 or something?
Yeah,
What night?
June 15th, 6:30 PM. Who seconded that motion?
I did.
6:30.
Okay. Discussion? Dana, what did you want to say? Is it
Yeah, it's
regarding
the
this
discussion,
motion?
yeah. No, not regarding the motion, but when you're going to initiate the discussion. We're in discussion now, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's why I had my light on for
Okay,
that.
yep.
Would it, I know some people are going to flip out on this one, but I'm going to throw it out there anyways. Looking at the site on Simmons Lane, would it not behoove us to look at an existing tower and the impact of that tower on the property? I mean, we can go out there and say, here's where it's going to be, but the impact is visually seeing what it looks like on a piece of property to this scale. And I believe you said, the attorney, or somebody said, there's one in Madbury, exactly like this is going to be. That almost makes sense, to see that, than to go and see whether where it's going to be, because I have a real hard time visualizing something that high up there. I can better visualize it when I see it standing in front of me. My God, this is huge. This is going to have a real impact.
Okay, so the motion to go to a site walk is on the table, so
Would that make
What's
sense?
that?
the motion to go to the site walk is on the table, and then Dana, if you want to make a motion to go see the one in Madbury, you can do that after.
Okay.
I made the motion.
Okay, call the roll. Yep, thank you.
Counselor Hart,
Aye.
Counselor Morrison,
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel,
Aye.
Counselor Glennon,
Aye.
Counselor Jarvis,
Aye.
Counselor Jerry Hamel,
Aye.
Counselor Caprioli.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Counselor Hart.
Is there a cell tower in the area that you're familiar with that's equivalent in height and design?
I'd have to do a little research to figure out what the closest one is that,
The cell tower in Madbury, at least the one on this map, isn't as high. And I think it's also,
I heard some in the audience say it's also not a monopole.
yeah, it's a,
It's ladder style.
It's not a monopole, but
It's
it
a
is the
tower.
exact same height that we were talking about last year, because I checked with Madbury before we even went to look at that one. And the base is exactly the same size.
the grid that you gave us says 128 feet Madbury, 114 feet UNH Foss Farm. So this is taller than both of those.
Public Works garage.
It's 180 feet is the one.
Newmarket is tall.
This is 180.
Newmarket, Public
Okay.
Works garage,
How tall is that one?
180.
And the
It's
Newmarket
also-
Public
it's
Works.
not the same as, it's not the monopole. Sorry.
Um,
All right.
did I call? Brian, are you all set?
I'd like to make a motion that we proceed with the contract to have the cell tower at the location, with, that if we proceed with it, we'll go into non-public to finalize some of the terms.
Second that.
Madam Chair, we have two.
I know, Dana. I'm trying to take notes. Just be patient, please. There's a motion on the table. Discussion regarding the motion. Counselor Glennon.
We already had a motion on the table.
And
he
we
just
voted
intro-
7-0.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. All right. Did we not, we're not going to discuss a location to where we would go?
The motion that was on the table that we just voted on was
Right.
to go have a site walk at the proposed location on Simon's Lane.
Okay, and in discussion, I said, should we not be looking at?
Right, and I said, we need to vote on this motion, and then if you want to make another motion about
Right.
that, going to see it at that location, you could do that, but Brian's light was lit, so I called him first. Counselor Jerry Hamel.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I believe there's a monopole at the Durham landfill on Durham Point Road. I don't know how tall it is, but I believe there's a monopole out there, and I think it's Sprint. I think you're correct. If you wanted to see a monopole.
Any other discussion on the motion? Counselor Hart?
Did you, Jen, did you just push your button?
No, I'm going to, though.
I was just going to give you the chance to speak since you haven't spoken yet. I was just going to say, I don't think this particular motion precludes having another site walk somewhere else. So
Right.
if Councilor Glendon wants to make that motion, it's fine with me.
Well, I was in the process of doing it, but I guess it wasn't fast enough.
So that's all.
Okay. Counselor Jarvis?
Can you just restate the motion that we're about to vote on, Brian?
You can, go ahead.
What my motion was to proceed with the contract and finalize the terms in non-public. Proceed with a contract to have the cell tower there.
Accept
And then
this.
we can make the terms, because I don't want to negotiate them in public.
Well, wouldn't we want to do the site walk before we did that?
I don't feel it's necessary, that's all.
Okay, all right, all set.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yep. Counselor Glennon, did you still want to make that motion?
Yes, I do, but do
We have to vote on this one. I'm just
first.
checking.
Yes, I do want to make that motion, thank you.
Okay. Can you call the roll? Mr. Dixon, thank you.
Counselor Hart?
Aye.
Counselor Morrison?
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel?
Aye.
Counselor Glennon?
Nay.
Counselor Jarvis?
Nay.
Counselor Jerry Hamel?
Aye.
Counselor Caprioli?
Nay.
I think it's 4-3. Pass.
Counselor Glennon, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that...
Thank you for waiting.
You're welcome. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'd like to make a motion that we visit as close as possible what this would look like on Simmons Lane within a reasonable distance. If it be Durham, I don't know if Stratham have one?
We have to name, and I'm just helping you. We got to name a site because we're doing this, and they got to know where to go.
Okay. Madbury?
How are we going to, I don't know how this works to get on. I guess we can worry about that after.
Oh, I can add to that, I mean, in that same motion, perhaps a Saturday morning.
Pick a date.
I would say June 11th, so we can do the 11th and do the 15th at Simmons Lane, get them all done,
At 9 a.m.
9 a.m., be fine.
Okay, I just have is there a second?
Second that.
I have a question, and then Counselor Jerry Hamel. How do you get on that you must have to have permission from Madbury to get on that property to see it?
Well, I would think you would want permission from any property owner.
Right. Okay. All right. Jerry?
Can you
Hamel,
see it on the
Counselor
road?
Hamel. Go ahead.
I guess I've got a problem with going to Madbury to look at a tower that's not similar to what's proposed here. You could do that right at the old Public Works garage. There's one right there. What's proposed here is a monopole, and if you want to look at something similar, you got to look at a monopole. So you've got to find where there's a monopole, not a. I believe those in Madbury are. What was the term?
Lattice
Labradorite?
towers. Lattice style.
Lattice. And that's not a comparison. We can do that right in town. So I guess I got a problem looking at something that isn't even similar.
I'm sorry, I thought it was similar. I thought it was the same thing.
Okay.
I have my line up.
Well, I know. Well,
to talk.
yeah, but you're like third to last with the lights, but
Okay.
I just want, we have a motion that
withdraw my
passed to proceed with a contract and change contract language in non-public. So, as it stands right now, there's going to be a contract, and we're going to change the language. I still personally would like to go see the Simmons Lane site, but I don't think that's going to change, that's not going to change the motion, so I don't know if going to see that other site is...
Well, point of clarification on what Councilor Hamel said, what I'm basically interested in is the footprint itself, not so much the height, because it's the footprint that's going to have that radius with that fence around it and everything else. That's what I want to see. So if the footprint here is the same footprint up in 152, then sure, let's go look at 152. Can anybody address that? Is that the same footprint?
I actually thought that, Mrs. Pignato, is that your name? I actually thought that what she was trying to describe was the base of the tower
Yeah.
as
No.
being 100 feet wide.
The bottom, the footprint.
The footprint of this tower is about 8 feet in diameter. You know, you're mixing up a number which is we're leasing a 100 by 100 square foot area. We're not going to build within that. We're going to build a fence that's 60 feet by 60 feet. The fence is about 8 feet high with barbed wire on top. We're going to plant plantings around the fence, so as you're approaching the the compound, you don't see the fence. It's behind arborvitae's or something. So the footprint, if this were a lattice tower, a typical lattice tower of this height is a three-sided structure. It would be 20 feet on a leg, a triangle that's 20 by 20 by 20. This is a circle that's 8 feet in diameter. This is not 100 feet.
How much cement are we talking about?
How much cement?
Cement.
Every site's foundation is designed based on soil samples at the site. So I'm not sure exactly. No more than necessary.
Excuse me. Public hearing's closed. We've been working on this for over an hour now. We need to stay focused on the council. I've got several more councilors. We have a motion that's approved to go into non-public, to negotiate the contract. At this point, I'm still would like to go see the Simons Lane property.
I can offer.
At this point, I don't know, Dana, if this is, this motion's, I mean,
I just
let's
want
just vote on it.
I just think it would be prudent to see something to the size already built.
I don't think this, I think Jerry's right, I don't think this is anything like that.
What is there around?
Excuse me, wait a minute. Counselor Hart, no, Jerry Hamel.
I think you just pushed that, didn't
Oh, did I?
you? When you were going for the hammer.
Oh, Counselor Hart.
My suggestion was going to be that, that we just make it a little bit broader motion, that we want to visit a site that is a monopole of approximately the same size, and when that site is found, we will be notified, it'll be posted as a public meeting, and we'll go there. And it'll be on that Saturday, June 11th. I cannot make that, I'll be in Philadelphia visiting family. If I get notice of the site, I'll try to visit it on my own, because I would be interested in seeing it. I am more interested in seeing what it looks like up. 60 by 60 is, it's a big area, but houses nowadays take up 35, 5 feet by 25 feet, and then driveways and parking lot and garages and stuff, so. I'm more interested in seeing, we should go look at some of the new developments. I'm more interested in seeing what it visually looks like.
Thank you. Counselor Jarvis, and then we're going to vote on this motion.
I was just going to suggest whether or not you could just send us some digital photos.
I was going to offer to try
via
to collect some
email,
of those,
so
yeah.
that we can get some, just a little more realistic photos of what it would look like.
Yep.
Of the same size and same style that we're looking at here.
Right.
And I'm sure we can get you all of our email addresses to have that.
Or I can get it to one, and one person can get it around, yeah.
Actually, put it on the website.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Jarvis. Counselor Morrison, were you going to withdraw your second? Withdraw.
Well, because I thought we were going to go look at a similar poll. I didn't know we were
Right.
talking about a whole different.
Counselor Glennon, do you like Brian's suggestion?
Yes, Counselor Hart, yes.
Do you want to
I
withdraw
would-
your motion?
I would amend it to what he says, the way he
But we have a
worded it.
withdrawn second.
I'll second it if he does the revised motion.
I will revise my motion.
Okay.
I'm going to second it. Thank you.
Al, did you get what that motion was?
I believe that we
Because I'm
will,
done writing.
we will be advised of a site that has a similar pole, which we can view in a similar height.
Right, exactly.
And then we'll just need to schedule it by June 8th, so we can
And there'll be a
publicly
posted
post
meeting.
it. Yeah.
Thank you.
And Dana made the motion, and Brian seconded it. Please call the roll.
Counselor Hart.
Aye.
Counselor Morrison.
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Glennon.
Aye.
Counselor Jarvis.
Aye.
Counselor Jerry Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Caprioli.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you all for coming.
Madam Chairman, will our non-public,
I can't hear
will
what-
our non-public session proceed on the 15th following the site visit?
That might be tonight. I don't know. Right?
I was thinking we would try to discuss some of the terms so we can get you can start hearing them before the 15th.
Okay.
But that'll be up to the council and the chair. Sorry.
Even better.
We haven't even talked about dogs yet. and that's going to be hard.
You got a public hearing, so you're going to have to do it.
I can't do it without a funny voice.
Okay. I don't know what to tell you from here. We have to go into a non-public on real estate already after. So
I can wait around you. Tonight, you mean?
Breakfast?
Yeah.
Breakfast, we can order it in.
I don't think it's gonna be tonight, but we'll talk about it. We'll let you know.
Okay, later, other than tonight?
Right.
Okay, that's fine.
All right.
Appreciate that.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'm gonna take a 5-minute break.
Thank you, Al.
Bathroom break.
No, I wasn't thinking that, Brett. I was just.
So you're going to take
Yeah.
two sidewalks or one? You're gonna walk
We wanna
on
see
the
one that's similar.
15th, you're gonna go to the
Simmons
the
Way.
neighborhood, and then
Why is this phone?
This new office park?
Yes. I'm sure you could get rocks from them.
I was thinking of asking him.
What do you do?
If I give up.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. All right. Let's call the meeting back to order. The next item on the agenda is an introduction to ordinance 2005-06, regulation of dogs, which I will have the pleasure of reading. Do we have copies?
Yes, the audience has copies, right?
Ryan, would you read this whole thing? I'm just asking.
If I was the chair, no, I would not read it.
Okay.
The essence.
What are we supposed to do?
I would summarize how it changes the current ordinance.
You want to know how it changes the current ordinance?
Okay.
Basically, what we have, we do not have a leash law in town. This is something relatively new. Portsmouth, Exeter, and Durham have just completed this exercise. What this does is establish a leash law. In other words, you can walk your dog most anywhere in town as long as you have them on a leash. And we've even said a leash of 8 feet or less. It also establishes areas where you cannot have dogs, and it also leaves the opportunity for you to designate areas where you can actually have the dogs off leash. No, you have the possibility of doing that. Off leash and under control. And right now, the essence is the leash. That's the big change, because our previous ordinance in most all communities by state law could be construed to mean under control of the owner, or under the command of the owner.
Now, does this ordinance pretty much, except for where it pertains to specifically Newmarket, mirror the state regulation? No?
No. Our previous ordinance pretty much mirrored that. This leash law is different. It's, like I said, there's only a few towns that have it in place right now. I think I provided you some news articles from the Portsmouth Herald regarding all the gyrations, so to speak, maybe, that the Portsmouth City Council went through to enact their ordinance and what they did. I'd like to say, too, there are some misprints here that we'll have to correct tonight once you introduce and everything I'll show you. But that's the big change. It does require you to have your dog on leash if you're walking them downtown or anywhere, and that the dogs are specifically allowed.
Okay.
Other than an area that you might want to designate, other than, to let them run and be under the control of the owner.
Okay, is there any discussion? Counselor Glennon.
Yeah, thank you, Al, for that summarization. The last time we had a discussion on this, we went all over the place with this, and I believe, Al, you're correct. You're saying this is basically to keep a dog on a leash 8 feet and not any longer. Is that correct?
8 feet or less.
8 feet or less. We're not dealing with anything else, just that issue. However, if we wanted to at a later date, we could add things such as a dog park and having the scooper thing pick up and all of that stuff. But the intent of this tonight is for the leash.
Well, what this is a comprehensive revision of the dog ordinance as we have it. It does cover the, just as it is right now, the excrement that has to be picked up and removed. That is there.
That's already
That's
there.
in the existing ordinance, so I didn't touch that. That's not a change.
Okay.
Now, if you look at page 4 of the ordinance, proposed ordinance, subsection 17.1.10, prohibition in parks and common, I would say here, I'd like to point out to you right now, as we're doing it, Leo Landrock Field should not be there, Beanie Howcroft and Bowyer Field. There's a specific prohibition, no animals on those fields. Those are recreational fields. Heron Point and Piscassic River Boat Launch would be included. Now, what we also thought and discussed as staff, and that's why it's down there as a small asterisk, perhaps maybe you would want to provide that doggy park right now, so to speak, and allow people to take their dog to Tuttle Swamp, Wigan Farm, or the Loiselle property, or both. If you did the Loiselle property, that would take care of the people in the urban area. There's 40 acres there approximately. And if you did the Tuttle Swamp, Wigan's Farm, which was the Fish Farm, that's what must be a 20-acre open field there and an area. And we checked with some of the lien holders and the people that participated in the funding of these specific properties that I just mentioned to see if there was any objection or prohibition. And with Fish and Game, there absolutely isn't. And we talked in general about the Nature Conservancy and everything else. And the controlling language there seemed to be the Fish and Game, and they have no prohibition. So you could allow, and I kind of look at maybe the Fish property or the Wiggins Farm to be like the Wagon Hill farm over in Durham. A great opportunity for families to go out there and throw frisbees and run with their dog or whatever.
I thought Durham.
Counselor Jarvis.
Al just answered one of my questions, which was why the Leo Landroche Field and all those other fields were on there. I would like to see us put the other locations in there that dogs are permitted. And then if we want to decide at a later date whether or not we want them to be off-leash or on-leash, they at least should be in here that people can take their dogs there. And just to make a point that the ordinance that we had before was a 2-page ordinance, and now this is a 6-page dog ordinance. And I just wanted to ask some questions as a newbie for a second. When someone wants, how did the ordinances come about? As far as I remember Will saying that there were some people complaining about dog poop in the conservation areas. But so then it goes to Clay Mitchell, who drafts this with the concerns of if one resident comes into the town council, who am I looking at? Okay.
Basically, what I'll do, if it comes in, the counselor comes in, he gets a concern, she gets a concern. They come in generally to me, because counselors do not direct the staff directly.
Okay.
We talk. I'll say, well, yes, sure, we can look into that. I'll have the staff consider it. We'll talk. I'll talk with Clay, or I'll talk with Dan, or whoever might be necessary. And what we'll do is propose some language and bring it to the council to a workshop. And
I don't think they can hear you up there.
can't hear me?
Work.
It's not working?
Yes.
Are you having a public reading or a discussion?
A discussion.
When are you having a public hearing?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we should be introducing it and then having the public hearing and then discussing it.
Okay.
And we can't act on it tonight because we can't introduce it.
I thought the public hearing came at the next meeting.
No, it's on the agenda after the
No,
introduction.
it says introduction. Oh, yeah, oh, yeah, I see.
Public
Okay.
hearing and then the introduction.
And we can't even vote on it tonight because we can't introduce it and vote on it in the same night.
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't think so, either.
So we'll be discussing this for a while.
Okay.
I'm not trying to dismiss what Jen's saying, I'm just thinking it might be better after we have the public hearing.
Okay, is that all right with you, Jen? It's fine. Okay.
Not allowed to discuss it at all?
All right, I'll open a
Before the
public
public
hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak regarding ordinance 2005-06, regulation of dogs? Mr. Dalrymple. I'm not gonna make you walk up to, oh, no, I have to, because it does work on TV, sorry.
I don't mind. Want something to pick me up?
Madam Chairperson, I, as a conservationist, along with the rest of the members of the Newmarket Conservation Commission, have always strived to protect and preserve our natural resources and make these areas available to the citizens of Newmarket for their use and enjoyment. We are not alone in this endeavor. Other citizens have planted shrubbery, and others have maintained niche of flower plantings throughout the town to beautify our town. Approximately 6 or more years ago, an ordinance was passed requiring those individuals walking their dogs to remove any excrement deposited by the animal. While most people adhere to our ordinance, some, unfortunately, do not obey our laws. Many plants have been killed by allowing dogs to urinate on them. Many of our conservation recreation areas are unhealthful as a result of dog owners' failure to comply with the law and their failure to consider the potential endangerment of the health of children who play in these areas. In formulating a new dog ordinance, I urge you to remember that it is not the dog that is the problem. The dog doesn't have the capability to think and plan his actions. The responsibility lies with the dog owner. This responsibility is ignored by a few dog owners because of their lack of respect for their neighbors and failure of our police force to enforce our laws. I suggest that the council consider the following changes in the dog ordinance. All dogs must be on a leash except in designated areas. Dog owners must remove all excrement deposited by their dog. Create dog parks in suitable areas around town. You should consider increasing the dog license fees to $25 to provide maintenance of dog parks and etc. You should increase the fines for dog ordinance violators to a maximum of $1,000. If you think that's too high, I have a handout that I took off the internet that indicates because of the health problems emanating from dog feces and the eggs therein causes blindness in 1 to 4% of the people that are blind. Money is obtained from fines to be used to offset monitoring costs of these dog parks and areas. If I may, I'd like to hand this out to each of the councilors.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Want to give me the whole thing? You want to give me the whole thing?
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, Herb.
Thank you, Mr. Dalrymple. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak? Yes, sir?
Hello, I'm David Wheeler. I live in Newmarket with my wife and my dog Gatsby, the best-looking dog in Newmarket. I walk him every day in the woods, and I just would hate to see the day that I can't walk in Newmarket with my dog at Heron Point Sanctuary. I'm the person who planted the flowers out there, and I'm rebuilding the kiosk. I put the flaps on the doors that people vandalized. So I'm out there every day. I'm in Newmarket every day, and I would just hate to see that I can't walk my dog. And I have just some websites on dog parks that I printed up in open spaces, and then arguments in the back on why open spaces for dogs are good. So I would like to give that to you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
How many copies do you have?
David, that was just very nice and short.
Yes.
He called last night and said, how long should I talk? I said, well, the shorter the better.
Mr. Valadica?
Oh, man. Madam Chair, perhaps what we ought to do is give this to Al to have the Kathy photocopy that. I thought it was, this all one set, that's what that is. We need
Yes, sir,
sets.
I didn't make copies.
Yeah, we need sets for
That's all right.
everybody. Okay.
Mr. Valadica?
Yeah. How about, I want to call it the Carlton Fish Land. Is that open for dogs? I mean, it's the fishing game is
Where they have
involved
the
in
fishing
that.
derby? Is that where you're
No,
talking?
no, this
That's
is where
the
Carlton
Tut-
Fish.
Tuttle Swamp, Wigan Farm
Tuttle
property.
Swamp, is that what
What
you're
did,
saying?
oh, the Fisk land, you said.
Yes.
Oh, I thought you said the fish
Oh,
land.
no, well, no, yeah. Can you, that's open for hunting, isn't it? Didn't the Fish and Game put some money into that? And you can hunt in there, so, if I taken my bird dog out there hunting, so that must be open, that's gotta be open for a hunt.
How's he do on a leash?
What? Well, right now, this is just a pup, a German short hair, and I'll tell you what, it may never get to that point, but I hope it does. So, I certainly would like that piece of property opened.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Anybody else that hasn't spoken? Mr. Dalrymple?
There's a couple of changes I'd like to propose in the existing ordinance as well as the previous ones.
Okay.
In the last paragraph in subsection 17.1.2, these have bullseyes, so I can't reference a number. It says chasing cats or any other animal. The part that I'm questioning is any other animal is not part of this ordinance.
Where is it?
If you continue on with paragraph 17.1.6, it says, any member of the Newmarket Police Department may kill any dog found in the act of maiming or in close pursuit of deer, caribou, moose, cattle, swine, poultry, or other domestic animals. I think the two paragraphs conflict.
Anything else?
The other thing I'd like to mention is that in paragraph 17.1.8, 1A, if it runs at large without being controlled by a leash, all those things are prohibited. I think there should be designated areas where a dog can run at large because it's a necessity for a dog to do that periodically.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Dixon, Counselor Wilfred Hamel. Did you push your button? Okay. And then Counselor Jerry Hamel.
My wife would strongly say that her golden retriever is the prettiest dog in town. Basically, I just wanted to comment on Heron Point and Piscassic Riverwalk. Those areas are available for you to walk your dog. They're being specifically designated for that, but on leash, okay? I'd also like to share with the council, I had a visit from Ree Cooper, who represents the people from the Piscassic Vote area. They were at first very opposed to this, and they sat as a group with notepads and pencils in hand at the last meeting, and were taking notes and trying to see what they could do to make things better. Basically, they were opposed to it because they heard that from a town employee that there was not going to be, enjoy it, there's not going to be any more dogs allowed here, okay? Obviously, that was wrong. So after that meeting, Ree came in and she wanted me to feel free to share with the town council the group's feelings. They support responsible care of dogs just like they do children, okay? For, as she put it, her 4 pugs are her children. She would like to see people responsible in picking up the excrement in the area of the Piscassic Boat Launch. Every time she goes walking, she carries her bags. In fact, on occasion where she hasn't, she has had to treat her dogs at extreme cost, the veterinarian, because they got worms from, excrement that wasn't picked up. They smell and things like that. So she's very much an advocate, and so isn't her neighbors and the people that joined her. They're not here tonight because they don't want to find fault with anyone. They don't want to point the finger and say, you're wrong or I'm right. They want to say that they really support responsible legislation to take care of the dogs. In fact, they want to mail out in their neighborhood and everything and hand out in their neighborhood to all the residents that happen to use the Piscassic Boat area a protocol sheet. And they're gonna work with their veterinarian, and she was wondering if perhaps maybe we could distribute that through the town clerk's office. And I said, certainly, you get a good document that's been reviewed and had input from a veterinarian that has health tips and everything else for animals and things. I said, it'd be totally appropriate for us to put out with the town clerk when people come in and get their license. So I guess that's it in a nutshell. They didn't want to come tonight and speak necessarily, but they wanted me to feel free to share that they support responsible legislation, and as long as they can walk their dog by leash out there and have them under control, have people pick up, be responsible, pick up the excrement, that's what they want to do. And I guess they have launched a program just amongst themselves at this point, and I don't know, Will, what you can say, but she felt it was getting a little better, and they're going to continue an educational program down there. So, for what it's worth. Now, in the area of Mike Velodica's concern on running, letting them run, or I think Herb Dalrymple's concern, a place for the dogs to run. That's why the staff put an asterisk on Tuttle Swamp and perhaps the Lozoyel property, because we talked to the parties that helped us buy these properties, and that wouldn't be prohibited. It could be an area where they could, a hunter can take his dog and train with him in the field, not have him on a leash, do whatever. It could be an area where a kid could go and play frisbee with, or throw a tennis ball with his dog, okay? Something like that. So that's just food for thought for you.
Thank you. And I did notice in here, Herb had mentioned that those two...
Like a dog.
Did. Those 2 paragraphs conflicted, the one about chasing cats and the police department could kill any dog found in the act of maiming her. But 17.1.3 says that there's exceptions when the dog is accompanied by the owner or custodian being used for hunting, herding, supervised competition, on and on and on. I don't know if that takes care of that. We'll just have to look at it. Counselor Wilfred Hamel, then Counselor Jerry Hamel, then Counselor Morrison, then Counselor Hartson.
Yes, I'd like to start off by making sure that Mike understood Wigan. We somewhat adopted the Fisk property new name to be Wigan Farm. So,
Wigan Farm?
Wigan Farm, yes. Wigan Farm, Tuttle Swamp, /Tuttle Swamp. I'd like to make sure that you understand that when you let your dog, what our intent is, when you let your dog loose on Wigan Farm, Loisel property, excuse me, you must adhere to Fish and Game rulings, because they are the stewards of this property. Whether it's hunting season, pre-hunting, or during hunting season, you must have knowledge of Fish and Game rules. I got about 4 things here.
Yeah.
I think Al clarified for Mr. Walker, I keep forgetting. Wheeler, that Heron Point and Piscassic River boat launch were leash law. You can walk your dog all you want to your heart's content on the other end of the leash. What I'd like to see here is some consideration given by the council due to the fact that the Conservation Commission has, this isn't something that we thought of at the last minute. We've been going at it for hours on end on trying to get this leash law passed. And we would all really appreciate the help from the council. As you know, we are an advisory group. We can holler and yell all we want, but we have no enforcement. We can't tell you what we want. We must ask. And even a simple reason of somewhat paying attention to the amount of hours that's gone into this. All committees put in their time, I realize that, but we've done our homework, and about the only thing that will help us in parks or town property to eliminate all this stuff that's going on, all these problems, is that we pass this leash law. It's every town around here that I know, Portsmouth, Dover, Somersworth, have all had their problems. It seems like as time goes by, people get more lenient. They seem to think that they can infringe on their neighbors' rights anytime they want. They can do this with their animals and do that. And it's hard. What this ruling would do, it would help everyone, even the person that doesn't abide by the law. I've met people at Heron Point, for instance, that come up to me and ask me, I see you here before, do you have something to do with this place? Yes, I do. So I really appreciate this beautiful spot to allow my dog to run. And we really appreciate the place. I'll say, well, more than once I've asked the person, how do you know where your dog is doing his thing? How do you know where to pick this up? Well, then it's no answer. And I, let him know that's, if he went out there, maybe he'd find out by stepping into it. So, the main, you can pick all kinds of paragraphs out of here all you want. You can work on it for 5 hours, and believe me, we've done it. But if you don't want things 100% your way and give this leash law ordinance a chance, I don't think you'll regret it. And last, Brian was talking about procedures Brian Hart was in the meetings. I thought we workshopped this once, and tonight we would vote on it.
It's an introduction, a public hearing, and then we vote on it at the next meeting, because you have to introduce it.
At the next
business meeting. Correct.
Boy, was I mixed up.
I looked at the charter, and it says we can't introduce and pass the same night.
That we what?
We cannot introduce an ordinance and pass it the same night. And the council requested that
This is the way it's written, but we introduced this on a workshop.
No, we introduced it tonight. We had a discussion on dog ordinances at the last meeting, because the council never requested the ordinance be brought forward. So it was formally brought forward tonight for the introduction.
All right.
And we discussed the idea of the ordinance, and we happened to have a draft of it at the May workshop.
I guess that's it, unless I think of something else. Thank you.
Counselor Jerry Hamel, then Counselor Morrison, and then Counselor Hart.
I guess I'm glad that we're not voting on this tonight, because this is one that I've heard an awful lot about in between meetings from people, and we're affecting a lot of people. I agree with you, the leash law should be in here. On the other hand, we're avoiding a lot of parcels of land that the town owns by specifically mentioning just a few where people can walk their dogs. A couple others that I can think of. There's a big chunk of land in the upper stretches of Follett's Brook that I'm sure hunters use, and we just bought some land out on at the end of New Road, the Wilson property, and that's a good-sized chunk of land. We're not even mentioning the possibility of people being able to use those. You know, I do want to emphasize that dog owners are usually taxpayers, and they help buy a lot of this stuff. And what I would suggest is we've had good luck with committees forming ordinances. This is affecting so many people, and we've discussed it quite a bit. Why don't we set up a committee and get some people that are affected on each side to put together something and bring it back to us that we know will be the right thing? And not to discredit the Conservation Commission, but you people have one view, and that's the conservation parcels. But this would affect, this can affect an awful lot of people, and I just think that it takes a little bit more work than what we've got right now. That's it.
Counselor Morrison?
I just had a question. Kevin Sear, Chief Sear, question?
Sure.
Chief, have you read this? Do you see the dog ordinance? Do you see, as it stands, do you see any problem with enforcement or anything from your end?
Well, under the violations sections, I noticed that some of the numbering is off. I think I can figure out what you mean, but...
You mean the statutes? Or
under the violations section on the new part?
The references to subsections?
like
Yes.
17.8?
The references are off from the ones that you're trying to impose. And as far as I think there was some discussion earlier about the police department killing dogs and that were found maiming or in close pursuit of deer. I think the verbiage from that, I didn't draft the ordinance, I think Clay did, but I think some of that verbiage comes right out of the Fish and Game statutes, so I think there are state statutes that govern that anyway. I guess my personal opinion on the whole thing is that it's tough to legislate, I think, total compliance in anything. If there's an area where there's a zero tolerance for dog excrement, I think you should ban dogs from that area. Similar to Little League Field, Leo Landrock Field, obviously, Bowyer Fields. If there's other areas that you want a zero tolerance on dog excrement, I think that you should ban those totally. As far as, I'm not a dog owner at this point, but I've had dogs, and I know that there should be some areas open for people to be able to let the dogs run. So I think you have to have a fine mix. I don't see how the police department can be in every location at every time watching every dog. And I don't think the dog owners want police officers following them around, waiting for the dog to go to the bathroom so they can hand him a summons. I can tell you that since the first dog ordinance came through, that I have never seen a dog go to the bathroom and having spoke to the owner that they didn't take care of it. If they hadn't, they'd have got a ticket. My officers normally do not get criticized for not writing tickets. They write tickets. If anything, that they get criticized for writing too many. I will say that probably this ordinance has not received as much enforcement attention as some of the other things that we work on. And I think that if there's areas that you want an absolute zero tolerance on dog feces, if there's places that you want to keep pristine, then you need to keep the dogs out of there. That's the only way of taking care of the problem. But on the other hand, I think you need to balance that by allowing people to walk their dogs and let them run in the open areas. I think that the leash law is a good one for the areas where you want to try to balance and maybe accept something less than a zero tolerance on dog feces. It's a good idea to have that dog close to the owner. If you're just letting the dog run through the park, that's obviously, they're not going to see where the dog goes to the bathroom. So I support the leash law for those areas. I think that's it. I looked at the ordinance. It looks like it's pretty inclusive.
Counselor Brian Hart. Then Counselor Glennon, Wilfred Hamill, and Jen Jarvis.
I have some suggested changes, because I think we're pretty close, actually. I don't think we're that far away. Page 1, section 17.1.2, underneath the definition of terms, where it says a leash of 8 feet or less. I would suggest that we revise that so it says a fixed leash of 8 feet or less, or a retractable leash. Because a lot of people have those ones that, and they stop them, and they're not going to be, none of them are 8 feet long. They're all longer than that. So this basically is banning retractable leashes, unless you keep it at 8 feet. So it would say off the premises or property of the owner while not on a fixed leash of 8 feet or less, or a retractable leash. And I don't think it makes sense to designate the length of a retractable leash.
Okay.
Section 17.1 just looking at my notes, hold on. Actually, I would suggest we insert a new section between 17.1.10 and 17.1.11, which is the enforcement one. And the new section would be something like off-leash areas. And it would say something like Newmarket residents may allow a dog to run without a leash, and as long as it's under its control or something like that, at the following town of Newmarket parks and conservation areas. And then we list whatever those areas are. And it's been suggested that's Wigan Farm and Loisel property at this point. Maybe it's going to be other areas. And so that's another idea. And just so to make it clear, I think an off-leash area is different than a dog park.
Yeah.
I do not want to see either of those properties become a dog park, because then there'll be too much excrement out there.
Location, I didn't hear that.
Wigan Farm and Loisel.
You mentioned that last month, that you would like to see that.
Excuse me, let me clarify, Wilfred. I want them to be an off-leash area, but not a dog park. There's a big difference. A dog park is a fenced-in area where you can actually pick up the dog poop, because you can see the dog poop, because it's like an area the size of a parking lot, and that's different than a natural area that we protected not to be a dog park. I don't want to see it become Wagon Hill. Wagon Hill is where everybody that drives on Route 4 stops to let their dog run around and go to the bathroom. We don't want that in Newmarket.
I'd like to ask you a question, because you probably know the answer.
Okay.
Do you know if we could make Wigan Farm a dog park, if the town of Newmarket has a right to do that?
I don't think we do.
I don't think so.
Nope.
No, that wasn't the intent.
Wilfred, don't take it as criticism. I'm saying there's a difference between a dog park
I'm just trying to understand what you're...
And I think we need to have an area, we call it off-leash areas, and then we have a dog park section as well. If we ever get to the point of designate a specific area, maybe it's the back part of the Blue Fields on top of Beach Street, Elm Street. The back part, maybe that's for dogs. I know people park there right now. Or somewhere else that we have as an area for people in the urban area to be able to take them out. And then I think we should delete the line in section 17.1.10 that says no person shall allow any dog to be in an area of a park in which the recreation department holds scheduled programs. Because that doesn't really, what is a scheduled program? How do they find that out? And if a dog's not allowed at any place at all in the town that's a town-owned, unless it's specifically listed Heron Point or Piscasig River Boat Launch, then we don't need that line. It just doesn't help. It makes it unclear. But it should say such areas shall be posted by the town to indicate that no dogs are allowed at any time. And then another minor addition would be to add language to that section 17.1.10 that says, so it says, no person, firm, or corporation at the top of the page shall allow any dog to be present while in the geographical confines of these areas, except for the following locations and whatever we put in there, and as well as identified in section 17.1.11, which would be the new off-leash area, because you'd want to reference that they're allowed there as well.
Okay.
I don't know. Those are some ideas. I think it gets us closer.
I have a question for you. This just sounds confusing to me. Conservation, except for the following locations, so they're not allowed anywhere except Heron Point and Piscasig River Boat Launch?
And in both those areas, they have to be on leash.
On leash, okay. And then,
It could be rewritten to say, dogs shall be allowed on leash within the
Easier.
following parks.
Right.
And all other areas owned by the town are not open to dogs at all.
okay.
That makes a lot of
So
sense.
where does the notion of a place where a dog can run off leash come? Is that
That would
gonna
be
a
another
separate-
section.
Okay.
That would be
I
the new
just-
section.
Okay.
It might be easier to say, no dogs are allowed here, dogs are allowed here, and dogs are allowed off leash here.
That would be really much less.
Suggestion on that same note, or do you want me to wait? I mean, what I
Yeah,
wanted
go
to say
ahead.
was exactly, if you change, the whole ordinance says you're not allowed to have your dog off leash, so I don't think we need to restate that. And then it's 17.1.10, if we just if we reword this to read, no person, firm, or corporation shall allow any dog to be present while in the geographical confines of the following town of Newmarket parks and conservation areas. You're just gonna list the ones where they're not allowed to be at all. Then, and the next, and that's just and then we don't have to figure out where they are allowed. We just list the ones they're not allowed in, and then everywhere else they're allowed in. And of course, it's on leash because that's the ordinance. And then if you go to at-large prohibited, 17.1.3, it shall be unlawful for the owner or keeper of a dog to permit a dog so owned or kept to run at large as defined, except for the following, when the dog is, in number 6, when the dog is in a designated off-leash dog area, managed and regulated by the town of Newmarket, list right there what they are. We don't have to call them dog parks. They're just off-leash areas, and the whole thing is done. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah. Might want to add that they still have to pick up.
That's part of
the
it.
ordinance
That's part of it,
anyways.
yeah, right.
That's a good suggestion. And because if we make these changes, we could send it to public hearing.
Right, because we don't need to, we don't need to
'Cause I'm not
identify
into
every piece
workshopping
of
this again.
property of where, and we've already decided, if your dog poops, you clean it up, no matter where they are. We've already decided that your dog is on the leash.
Don't worry, it's gonna come up.
Dana Glennon and then Wilfred Hamill.
Al, I'll yield to Al if he wanted to make a comment to that.
Well, the only thing I was going to say, if you're out at the Fisk property and you're in 2 feet of grass, okay, and your dog is running,
You're never gonna
you're
find it.
never going to find it.
Right.
So that, in a situation like that, the requirement to have them pick it up, I think, is unreasonable.
Good point.
Well, they're always gonna be, your dog is always gonna need to be in your sight, because that's part of it has to be under your control. So if your dog is out of your sight, then it's out of your control. So that would be my understanding of
That'd be like a needle in a haystack, though. If your dog could be 150 feet away, and by the time you get there, how do you spot it?
So what are you gonna say, that they can't go, so then the places where.
No, I'm
you
saying
think
that
might-
they can go in those areas where they're running.
That we can't say they have to pick up, is that what
No,
you're
I
saying?
think that's a little bit unreasonable, maybe, because if you're training your dog, they could be, 150 yards away from you or something. But
Right.
still under control of a hunter, with training his dog.
And I don't think, I mean, there's no way you're gonna be able to regulate that anyways, or regulate somebody letting their dog go on Main Street. The cop's not standing there or doesn't ask them for the ticket. But I don't think we need to specify, I don't think we need to say in the ordinance, you can let your dog go to the bathroom here and not clean it up. I think if we just say, these are the open areas, all areas are on leash except these areas. And these areas are the areas where no dogs are allowed.
That's gonna be a long list. It would be easier to name the areas that are allowed. That's the whole
Why
point.
don't-
Because we own like 30 properties. So we're gonna have to list everything that they're not allowed on.
How many are they not, they're not allowed in the athletic fields? And
Falls Brook, and that's
aren't
what.
they
and-
allowed in Falls Brook?
Well, right now, the way it's written is they're not. So, everything that's not in this ordinance, they're not allowed on. Right, Jerry?
That would clean that up.
Well, that's what, it would clean it up if we just said, which ones are they not allowed in? And then when you
the same
get, and
difference.
then when you get your, I think there is a difference to know what areas you're not allowed in. So then when people come register their dogs, you hand them the ordinance, they know where they can't go.
And if it's not posted,
And if it's
or
not
they don't
posted,
know about
then
it,
they,
you
then
can't
they
force
can know
it.
where they can go.
We did
You can't
request a
force it.
list.
Counselor Wilford Hamel?
Oh, I was next.
I think it's Dana's.
Yeah, I just yield to him
Your
because he
light's
was.
not even on.
Well, you shut me off.
Oh,
because,
that's right.
Yeah. What I wanted to say was, we should send this back, instead of forming a committee, because I would hate to see a committee being formed for this, because this is important. I also thought the Committee for Senior Citizens was important, and I was told that there wasn't enough time for the council to do that. So where the conservation people have already been working on this, I would probably suggest that we email or give Councilor Hamel, Will Hamel, our thoughts, and let him take it back to the conservation people, because you people originally started this, right? So why start another committee? Send it back with our thoughts, our process, and have you guys look at it again. Does that make sense?
Counselor Hamel?
No disrespect intended, but it might make sense to you. And to a lot of other people. When Jerry mentioned a committee, I said, well, maybe that's a route. I figured this would go like this tonight. And the commission is not trying to play God. Certainly, I'm not. I know better than try to play God. But the Conservation Commission can look at this again, but we've put many hours. Every one of us here, excuse me, can pick all we want at this because it's not quite to our liking, when all the time the leash law would help all the problems. This is taxpayers' properties. These are properties where the Conservation Commission has been in charge of. We're trying to respect the properties, trying to take care of them, and it's just about impossible. Like Chief Sear was saying, if you want to really take care of them, you post them, period. Well, we're trying to get along with people, like Jerry said. This concerns a lot of people. But I'm not concerned with a lot of these people because they're not concerned with us. They just want to do what they want to do. For instance, retractable, that's a modern state-of-the-art leash, retractable. Any day of the week, you can walk downtown and watch some bozo walking Main Street with a retractable, and his dog's in the gardener's flowers, trashing them up. I don't have to play around with these flowers, but it burns me up to see this. This is, a lot of times, these are tax dollars that are helping these people do it. Just park downtown sometimes and watch people with a retractable leash. It's like, come on now, it's time, but the dog's 50 miles away. Like Beaulieu Field and places like that, these places are already posted. They don't want your children playing around where dogs have been enjoying themselves. But if this council wants, This can go back to the Conservation Commission. However, I don't think I'm going to have too good of results. Right now, every meeting that I have, there's 7 members, and 7 members are there unless there's a grave situation that he can't make it. And we are getting it right up to here on this because we're not getting any help. The police department isn't overmanned by no means. They can't be there every time somebody decides to walk their dog. We've had instances, however, when a police officer in the past has observed someone doing things like this and just kept right on going. The 2 reports that I've got on a situation like this. Now, I realize they can't be everywhere, and if we start picking all this apart, we're going to be here forever. And I've said it before, we need something like this from the council so that we can be relieved from these people that just want to take advantage of, I got a dog and I should have the rights to let him run. Well, if I didn't own a microwave, I wouldn't be buying microwave popcorn. Most of these people don't have 1 square inch to walk their dog. And I realize that they like animals like I do. If you approach without a badge on, if you approach these people sometimes and tell them what they're doing, you better get ready to duck. This is the type of people you're up against nowadays. So if this is the wish of the council, I'll take it back, but I've had no trouble hanging on to members in the Conservation Commission, but this is going to infringe on their attitude. I'll tell you right now. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to take Councilor Hart and Councilor Jarvis, and then I would entertain a motion.
At the last meeting, we requested a list of all the properties the town owns, and we didn't get that, so I think that's important to get. I'd like the ordinance to list the properties that the dogs won't be allowed on, and the properties that dogs will be allowed on leash or off leash. That would be the best way, because it would make it clear to anybody who's reading it. I don't think the approach of listing where it's allowed or where it's not allowed is appropriate. It needs to be all in the different classes that we make. And that's going to spark a lot of conversation when we get that list, because like Fallsbrook, you can't enforce people against hunting with their dogs, but in general, should it become a dog park where people can take their dog? Well, that's where we're going to get our drinking water from. I don't think that's a good idea. Now, there's going to be people out there hunting, but you can't stop that. It's like but do we want to promote it by putting it in there as a specific place? I don't think so.
Councilor Jarvis?
I was going to ask about that same list that Brian just asked for, and hopefully if we can get that before the next meeting, that maybe we could all, as counselors, go through that list and right next to each spot, off-leash, no dogs, on-leash, so that when we come to the next meeting, because it seems like everyone agrees with most of this ordinance except for the only fact is where your dogs can be off-leash. So if maybe when we discuss this again, we can already have our mindset individually as to where we think the dog should be in those 3 categories, that we could move this along a little faster. I think that would be helpful if we could get those pieces of property. That way, each town councilor has the opportunity to visit each one of those pieces of property, make his or her opinion on whether or not they think the dog should be allowed there, the dog should be able to roam free there, or the dog should only be allowed there on the leash. Thanks.
Okay, what I'd like to see happen is that we have a motion to send this to public hearing at the July business meeting, and maybe get a copy of it for, not to public hearing, for approval. I'm sorry, approval, right? Vote on it, is that,
If you're making changes.
we have to.
We haven't made any changes yet. We're at the workshop at the June workshop. Then we can go to July for the vote on it.
Okay.
That's why my light is on, is to make that motion to go.
Send this to
Workshop,
workshop.
right.
June 15th workshop. So are we reintroducing it at the July meeting then?
Introduce it tonight, and then, once you've gone through the hearing, you can adopt it amended or as is. So you'll make your amendments at the next, say, workshop, and we'll repost it, go from there.
Okay, and then it'll go July for vote. And Counselor Glennon made that motion?
Yeah, if I can state the motion, I would like to make that motion that ordinance 2005-06 for regulation of dogs go to workshop for June 15th. However, prior to that meeting, I would request that the council has this information prior to that evening so we can review it and make any changes so we don't go through this long process.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion? Counselor Jarvis and then Counselor Hamel. Wilford Hamel.
I think I might have forgotten to turn mine off, but can we say that we'll get that to counselors, the list of all those identified properties, so that we can do that?
Yeah, I think David spread the motion, yep.
Okay.
Counselor Wilford Hart? Wilford Hart?
One little addition.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why the commission is seeking the council's help on getting this ordinance passed, some of us feel on the commission that we'll post all conservation land. And again, some of us don't want to see this. It's not fair to the dog owner that wants to do what's right. But as far as I know, we have the rights to post our property for the health and safety of everyone. If you've got your dog on a leash and somebody that just doesn't care that much about his animal, or certainly yours, you can come over and tear your animal apart. We're trying to look out for everybody. But if we run into too much, it isn't a threat by no means, but the feeling of the commission, if we run into too much flack on this, we'll post all, their feeling was we'll post all of conservation property. And I think we have a rights. Thank you.
Any more discussion? Mr. Dixon, can you please call the roll?
Yes, so I can understand it, and I think I like it. We'll just prepare the list of all the properties, correct? And then you will go through and identify.
Correct.
All right, very good. Counselor Hart.
Aye.
Counselor Morrison.
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Glennon.
Aye.
Counselor Jarvis.
Aye.
Counselor Jerry Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Caprioli.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Madam Chair, could I should make a comment? Mr. Dixon, when you list those, it might be helpful if you know in advance there's some stipulation that we can or we can't.
Well, we can list the current uses.
Okay, that might help us. Thank you.
All right. Resolution 2005-10, restoration of the auditorium mural. I'll read that.
Quick question. Can you walk your dog down the road if you get a real, down legs lane?
Yeah, if you have a leash.
Walking down the road.
With a leash, yeah.
But what if the dog is trained well enough he walks beside you? I mean, there's a lot of people get dogs like that. They're fine. They walk beside you.
That's what
I
the
don't wanna
old
walk my
ordinance
dog
states, and it's not enough.
and have them put, that's town property, that's town roads.
Clarification.
Well, is that all we're talking about?
We already
Just
closed this.
conservation?
I'm not gonna
We're talking about the whole
reopen
town.
Mike,
This
well-
gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
You're right, I know, but unfortunately, people like yourself that are responsible, not everyone's like that, and it's causing a problem.
Yeah, I understand that. Well, let's go after the people that aren't doing it. And actually, like you said, it's $1,000. No, stop.
There's no way.
I don't know. It just, it's the person, the good person is getting the shit in
I know.
because.
Yep.
I know.
because the
I
bad
don't-
guys aren't doing it, so.
I agree.
It's always the way it is. What?
I agree.
I agree, that's always the way it is. and it's not
Okay,
right.
Resolution 2005-10, a resolution relating to a restoration of the auditorium mural. Whereas the capital improvements plan has recognized that the auditorium mural needs to be restored, and whereas the plaster that the painting resides has disconnected from the studs on which the lathe was mounted and is sagging forward by at least a half inch in the left center of the painting. And whereas if the plaster is not reattached to the studs, the plaster will continue to dislodge itself until it falls away from the remaining support. And whereas the town staff has researched and interviewed restorers that work with old plaster paintings. Now therefore be it resolved that the Newmarket Town Council does hereby approve the restoration of the auditorium mural. And now therefore be it further resolved that the Newmarket Town Council hereby approves the funding of the mural restoration to be account 0120100040010304 CIP building improvements $5,000. Account 014909000031 CIP building improvements up to $4,500. Given at the Town Council Chambers, Newmarket, New Hampshire, this first day of June in the year of our Lord 2005. Administrator Dixon, I don't understand why there's two CIP building improvement lines and one is 5,000 and one says up to 40. Is it a combination of the two?
Combination of the two.
Okay. All right, and I had a couple of questions. Gilman Studios Incorporated is the one that submitted a bid. And the total cost, I guess, is, there's a 50% deposit, so the total cost is $8,172.
The estimated cost range, okay, the actual cost estimate total, okay, is 8172. But the estimated range is 7355. They have some variables in there.
Right.
The 9398.
Okay.
That's why we're asking.
Is this a not to exceed or?
Yes.
Okay.
The 9398 should be a not to exceed unless there's something that's identified that hasn't come up. This is an old
Right.
mural, plaster mural downstairs, and there's very few companies that do it.
And it says, their proposal says that their insurance covers up to $500 of the value of our art property. Do we know how much that's worth?
We have got some estimates, received some estimates today, not estimates, but appraisals on all of our properties, and I believe that mural is covered. So I'll look at it. When I say
Even
we
if someone
received it-
else is working on it?
Yes. The appraisal will still be there, it's the value. They're saying within $500 of the value.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute,
They're saying
I
it'll be
guess-
covered within $500 of the value.
Oh, so they're not gonna cover only $500?
Right, within $500 of the value.
All right, and
Should be.
That's not the way I...
when are they,
The way
Our insurance covers up to $500 in the back.
excuse me, when are they, when are they prepared to do
Okay,
this?
beyond that, okay, yes. Okay. They're gonna
I mean-
start within the next 60 days, okay? And they've got a lot of work to do, prep work and things like that. Now, I want to clarify this. First of all, they're saying, yes, they will cover up to $500, and then we have to cover beyond in our own insurance policy, okay?
So, my interpretation was right, they're only
Yes.
gonna cover the first 500?
First 500, yes.
Even if they're working on it, and our insurance covers that?
Yeah, well, yes, we'd have to have a specific as they're working on it, under construction. Keep in mind, that's an old plaster wall downstairs. They
No,
could start working on that, and it could,
I know,
it's very sensitive.
okay. And, Counselor Glennon?
Now, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but how does a MIS person meet the qualifications for getting information for the restoring of that? I mean, these people are telling us this, but Do we have anybody on our side that,
I haven't hired anyone other than, we went out, I had the staff, doesn't matter whether it's an MIS person or it's myself, going out and trying to secure and talk to people in the industry, that would have the credentials to do it. And there's very, very few people, and this firm checked out real well, and Mike did the work.
when you say checked out, what are we basing it on?
He talked with people that had, work performed by him.
Is this the only quote we went out to get?
This is the only firm in reasonable proximity.
Well, we've gotten people from Maine way up 4 hours away to come down and do projects in town.
Well, this is the only one within a reasonable proximity that was identified that could do it. Now, I don't know if there's any way up in Maine or wherever, but what I'm saying is within a reasonable proximity, this was the only firm that was really identified that does this kind of work. It's very specialized.
Oh, I'm sure it is, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Alpern, I saw your hand up.
Is this a public hearing? That's all I wanted to know.
It's a resolution, no, it's not a public hearing.
So no talk from the public?
Well, do you have, can you,
Yeah, I have a statement I'd like to make
okay,
about this.
I'll give you a minute.
Lord knows I'm all for historical preservation. Close to $10,000 is a big chunk of change for something once they started, could just fall apart. Has anybody thought that today's technology, they could actually take a picture of this and reproduce it that size, that clear, for maybe a whole lot less? And we'd still have the picture. I mean, we don't really know who painted this, I don't think. Do we know who painted this picture?
No, I don't.
But like I said, I'm all for preservation of history. It is a historical painting, but I think it might be a good idea to check out if we could get out for a whole lot less by having this reproduced by a digital picture. They can make pictures that big today.
Thank you.
Okay.
The only reason this is here is because it's been discussed specifically in different budgets by different councils that it should be saved
Right.
as is.
Do we know, you don't know off the top of your head the dollar value of it, right?
Oh, I don't.
But it's more than the 9,000 that it's
Well,
gonna
if you
cost to
commission
fix it.
somebody to do that today, yes.
It doesn't have a they can't sell it because it's stuck on.
It's stuck on the wall.
Right,
So
right.
it wouldn't have a.
They have the same value.
But if you were to commission, and that's what the value would be based on, somebody to do that today, that would be very,
Counselor Jarvis and then Counselor Hart.
I went down there to look at the mural, and I was just, how long has that crack been there? Because that's what we're talking about, is that crack, right, on the
as long
right-hand
as
side?
I've been here, yes.
Okay, which is how long?
Well, pretty close to 8 years now.
8 years, okay. So, has it changed much in that 8 years? Are we gonna spend $10,000
I really haven't
to get?
watched it, to be honest with you, I can't tell you.
But it's not in fear of, when I went down to look at it, it doesn't seem like it's about to
Collapse.
totally collapse or fall apart. It would just be aesthetically creasing out that one crack. And to me, $10,000 seems like a lot of money to spend on that. So that's why I was just trying to get a feel for why it was on the table now and how long it's been looking like that.
It's been looked at for, I think, several years.
It has.
But basically, it's just being brought forward to you at this point. This is what we determine a legitimate company can do it for. And if you decide not to, I agree with you, that's a lot of money.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Hart?
The idea of digitally reproducing it, I think the idea is to make a print of it and put it up in replacement, and that would be like taking an antique fire truck and taking a photograph of it and putting it up in place of the fire truck. This is a work of art. It's unique. We should decide whether or not we want it or not. And if we do, this is what it's going to cost to maintain it. I don't think that other proposal would be appropriate for the site. And I make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2005-10 if it hasn't already been made. I was outside at the beginning.
Is there a second? No second?
I'll second that.
Any more discussion?
I have a couple of questions. I'm not sure if this was already covered, but is there anything artistically significant about this mural? The local artist, local family connection, or is it just a 65-year-old plaster mural? Does anybody know?
What significance would be that it's a picture of the town back at that era. Is that correct, Al?
Well, yeah, but this particular type of work, I guess, and I'm not an artistic evaluator, is very rare, I guess, so to speak. And the talent to do it it's hard to find.
Okay, so there is something more significant about it than it's just down there.
I've been told, and several counselors, I'll go back when I first came here, that was the restoration work. We did some renovations downstairs, and that's one of the things that they, in the end result, they wanted that saved. And they expressed reverence for it, so to speak.
Well, I guess if we restore it, I mean, are we sure that it's mounted properly? I mean, have we had anybody come in and look at it, maybe like the art department at UNH, or maybe we might have to pay too much?
No, we haven't. As far as being mounted, you see, it's on a plaster wall. It's like, instead of being sheetrock, instead of being sheetrock, it's, horsehair plaster, I believe, or something like that.
Probably, yeah.
Right. And
On the lathing.
would it be possible to remove it and mount it somewhere else?
I don't
So that
believe
it's
so.
not as...
Come over to my house, you can take down some horsehair plaster walls.
No, I've done it. I've done it. It's a lot of fun for about 5 minutes, and then that third hour.
Done with his house, come to mine.
But it does seem like a lot of money for that project. So I guess I'm a little uncomfortable about that right now. Because, I mean, that's $10,000. I mean, there's artists out there who never see that much money in their whole life. And I just think, I want to think about that before we invested in this mural.
Counselor Hart?
We could apply to the Moose Plate program for a grant of up to $5,000 that can match the town money. And that's a December deadline, so maybe we could wait till that.
Yep.
They have money
Like that
for
idea.
historic preservation of buildings and stuff. And this might be something appropriate for that.
Counselor Jarvis?
I was just going to suggest that we look for grant money, but also just make the point that by not passing this resolution tonight is not saying that we're not saving the mural, because it could be that we could pass this resolution, and as soon as they start chipping away on it, we lose the mural altogether, as opposed to looking at it right now with a crack on the right side. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Any more discussion? The resolution is to approve. We can either vote on this, because I get the feeling that people may want to look at,
Yeah, Jerry seconded it.
Oh, Jerry, yes.
people may want to look at trying to get the, a grant, as Brian suggested, or we can ask you to withdraw.
Do we need to add an amendment to that?
We
Based
could
on,
revise it to say contingent upon receiving a grant from the
Right.
Moose Plate program. I wouldn't recommend it be half, because I'm not sure what the maximum grant they give us.
right, right.
Pending
Is that
investigation.
acceptable to you, Jerry
I
Ham?
don't really care.
I got something to add, too.
Okay, Jerry, go ahead.
Would it be wise to look into also photographing before any work started, just in case?
That's a good idea.
You may want to go that route to preserve it.
Yeah, that's not a bad
or
idea.
lose it.
Maybe we could sell prints
Yeah.
for the restoration.
I think you should do a dog show to raise money for the dog park. I'm serious.
That's a good idea.
Okay, so
My dog would.
the motion's been the motion's been amended to say Resolution 2005-10 to approve it contingent upon getting a grant from the
Moose plate.
Moose
program.
plate.
Moose Plate Program.
So it would be, so it wouldn't pass if we didn't get a grant from the Moose, but even if we got a $5 grant or a $100 grant, it would still pass, right? No matter, we're not saying the dollar amount, but you can't guess that.
Why don't we just, this is, I can't believe it's taking
Come
this
back
long.
to you.
Let's just table it and then I'll try to apply for the grant. If we get it,
Yeah.
we'll bring it back.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
I mean,
I'll second that.
sorry I'm getting frustrated, but
You want to withdraw?
Just
Jerry's withdrawing.
get the grant.
Motion to table.
Second,
Who made the motion?
Brian Hart.
sure.
Oh, I'm sorry, did you actually?
That's fine. That's totally fine.
And
Brian seconded.
discussion? Call roll.
Counselor Hart.
Aye.
Counselor Morrison.
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Glennon.
Aye.
Counselor Jarvis.
Aye.
Counselor Jerry Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Caprioli.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Next item on the agenda, Town Council to consider nominations, appointments, and elections. Cemetery Trust Committee. We have 5 candidates. Counselor Jerry Hamel applied for a 1-year term. Richard Alperin applied for a 1-year term. Michael Pelzar applied for a 2-year term. Mike Provo applied for a 2-year term. And Edward Pelzar applied for a 3-year term.
Madam Chair, I have a question on that.
Counselor Hart actually goes first.
I'll pass.
Counselor Glennon.
Okay. Do we need a motion on this, or I'd like to make a recommendation? My recommendation?
Okay, go ahead and say what your recommendation is.
Okay. My recommendation would be to extend this board from a 3 to a 5 member. We have 5 people now that are interested on it, and if we were to do that, then we would table this to another public hearing.
Is that correct, the process?
Well, you'd have to amend the ordinance, I believe, that has the
Right.
the
And do a
membership.
public hearing. So that's gonna put this till July, right? Counselor Hart?
I believe.
We could appoint 3 people and then proceed with discussion on amendment at the future meeting.
Please get it started.
We could do it that way. Or we
Well,
could
how
table the
would,
whole.
how would you do that? Because you have 5 people.
You appoint 3 and you don't appoint 2 of them. And then you go to the June workshop and discuss the amendment. And if you pass it, then you go back and appoint the 2 other people. That's all.
I would just rather table the whole thing until discuss going to 5. I think we're gonna run into trouble if we do it this way.
Can we not just change to 5 right now?
Nope.
It's an ordinance.
Public hearing, it's
You
an
have to go to
ordinance.
public hearing first.
I think that, I don't think Brian's suggestion is a bad one, Dana, and the reason I say that is because the amount of things that we haven't accomplished tonight, and we've sat here, is,
So if we go to a non-pub, I mean, not non-public, we
because
go,
you're talking about 2 different things. If we table this because we want to change an ordinance, that's not
Right.
fair to the people who've applied. We can change the ordinance at a workshop and pick 3 now, and then the other 2, we can keep their applications on file and add them later, but people have been waiting a long time for this. January, I think.
Can we get a sense from council members as far as if people would vote towards the 5 members, so that, I mean, because I would think that would affect your vote, I guess.
Counselor Morrison?
I mean, if we have 5 candidates, I don't see any reason why 3 is better than 5. You know, I think one of the reasons we took it down to 3 was we were afraid we wouldn't be able to get candidates for all 5 seats, and that's not really a problem. But I also think Councilor Hart's got a good point in that we can get this going and then amend it and sort of do exactly what you're saying, but actually achieve things in the meantime.
I don't feel comfortable with that. That's my opinion, though.
Counselor Jerry Hamel?
I think if you were to bring it back up later on to increase the membership to 5, you'd have to repost it. And then if you got another 2 or 3 people to apply, then what do? We go back and increase it again so that they can sit on it? You know, there's, you can't just increase it to 5 and take these applicants here. You've got to post it again, I believe.
You can't
change the
increase
ordinance.
it. You can't increase it to more than 5. The ordinance says 3 or 5. So if the first 5 that applied, those are the people you would go for.
And also, you could change it to the council taking over.
No, because we already voted on
Oh, yeah, but we'd be
setting it up.
opening this right back up.
Counselor Hart?
I make a motion to nominate Jerry Hamel for the 1-year term, Rich Alpern for the 2-year term, and Ed Pelzar for the 3-year term.
Second
Is
that.
there a second? Is there a second?
Yep, I did.
Sorry.
That's funny, I was just going to say, did you get my second? Because I don't want to have to say it twice.
Who was the third one, Brian?
Ed Pelzar for the 3-year term, Rich Alpern for the 2-year, and Jerry Hamel for the 1 year.
Okay.
Who seconded that?
Mr. Alpern,
Brian Morrison did.
do you want a 2-year term?
Sure.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay,
Can, and we're still going to look at the possibility of expanding to 5 after this?
that would have to be another motion.
Madam Chair, just to
Yep.
just so we all remember the process for nominations, because it's a little convoluted because of the past experiences. Is the floor is open for nominations, which since we started the topic, I assumed it was, and then we accept all nominations. And so if anyone else has a nomination, they can make them, and then we vote on all nominations. And this is where it gets weird. Everybody that's nominated gets voted on, so you have to remember that, because if we nominate everybody that's run, that's applied, then we have to vote on each person, and then if there's a tie for a certain slot, then we only get 1 vote for the 2 people that tied.
Okay. All right, well,
Everybody?
the last thing you said, well, you may have to repeat if it gets to that point. Is there any other nomination?
I'm just saying that's the way it works. I'm not saying it's right.
Never figured it out.
Counselor Jerry Hamel?
I'd like to nominate Michael Pelzer for the 2-year term.
Okay, and any other nominations? Okay, we're going to vote, starting with Counselor Jerry Hamel.
Can we explain this voting
Yeah.
once again?
Okay, because we have to vote on everyone individually, because, right? Because everyone's, that's been nominated. So one person, Michael Provo, was not nominated, so we do not have to vote on him, but we got to vote on the other 4. Because if you're nominated, you got to get voted on. And you, there's 3,
This is-
excuse me,
yeah.
there's 3 positions, so you get 3 votes, correct?
Not the first round. Everybody will vote on Jerry Hamel.
Right.
There's no competition for the slot that Jerry's on. It's assuming that he's going to pass.
Okay.
When we vote on, everybody will vote on Rich Alpern, and everybody will vote on Michael Pelzar. If they tie, then we only get 1 vote for the 2 candidates. So if it's 7-0 and 7-0, then they're tied. Then we get 1 vote for the 2 positions. If they don't tie, then the person with the most votes wins. That's the way we passed it. That's the process. However convoluted it is, that's the process that our own resolutions, the council has adopted because of something that happened 5 years ago, in which people felt like they were not voted on.
I think he's
Hey,
right.
Are the nominations closed now?
No.
No, I just asked before, got clarification.
Did you, Jerry, did you say Mike or Ed?
Mike.
Michael Pelzer. And I believe Ed was nominated.
Yeah.
It has been.
Yep.
It has been nominated, yeah. Brian had nominated,
Two positions.
Excuse me. Jerry Hamill, Rich Alprin, and Mike Pelzer. I mean, Pelzer. Ed Pelzer, I'm sorry.
Jen, did you have another, or was this from before?
No, I have a question. In reading through the applications, I noticed that Jerry had said in yours, they thought it was important for a town council rep to be on this committee. Does a town council rep have to take one of these 3 seats that we've already decided on? Because like, I've noticed that we were all on different committees, and sometimes the town council can just appoint a town council member, but would Jerry have to take up one of these 3 seats, or could he just go as a town council rep?
He'd have to take up a seat because you have no provision for a council rep, you just
You'd
have
have to
3
change the
seats.
ordinance, yeah. So you have to change.
Yeah, but you've got to change your ordinance.
No, you could just
Which puts us back to the same situation.
But we want to do that anyway.
Because
We
I'm
wanna-
assuming the reason why you want to have a town councilor on the committee is because if something happens, it's coming back to us to deal with it. But maybe, is that what you were thinking when you?
Well, that, and I was a believer that we had a system that wasn't broke and was working fine, and we were possibly heading towards a problem, and I just felt that it was a good opportunity to have a counselor on there, and I also thought that the people that were working it now were quite in control.
So is that, so it would have to be, you're saying, if we wanted a counselor on this committee, they'd have to take one of these 3 seats.
Right now,
As it
yes.
stands right now. But that if we get into changing the ordinance, we could say that and 1 seat would be available for a town council. No?
I don't believe so. I don't think it's provided under the law. You can't designate there at large.
Right, but like at one point you said, we'll make sure that a town councilor goes to all the Newmarket Business Association.
Yeah, but that.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah,
that's...
but that's not governed by state law.
Well, I'm saying we couldn't do that same thing here? No. we
State
can't,
law
Because state law specifies that you can only have 3 to 5, and it
Right.
would have to be, okay.
And it doesn't say an at-large.
Voting people.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
For the whole.
Counselor Glennon?
Um,
We should figure out if the nominations are still open. If they're not, let's close them.
That's what I was just conferring with Counselor
If that's what you want to do.
I'd like to nominate Mike Provo for 1 year, Rich Alpin for 2 year, and Ed Pelzer for 3 years.
Well, the only change you have then is Mike Provo for 1 year?
Right.
Okay, so you're just nominating Mike Provo
Right.
for 1 year?
Right.
So do I understand that Rich Alpin's now been nominated twice?
No.
No,
Yeah.
I was just following that pattern of what Counselor Hart was saying. He had said 3, I was going with 3.
Yeah.
But my choice was number 1 is Mike Provo. To change.
Everybody has been nominated.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's vote.
Everybody's been nominated, huh?
All right. For Counselor Jerry Hamill.
Why don't you take him in the 1 year, just a suggestion, 1 year, 2 year term, way they've been nominated?
Yeah.
That's what she's doing.
Oh, she is?
She's already Jerry. He's a 1 year.
He's 1 year?
Jerry's.
Okay. Yep, he is, I'm sorry.
Don't confuse me.
I'm getting
Okay,
confused.
for Counselor Jerry Hamill. Do you call the roll, or?
Yeah, I guess so. Counselor Hart?
Aye.
Counselor Marson?
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamill?
Aye.
Counselor Glennon?
Nay?
Counselor Jarvis?
Aye.
Counselor Jerry Hamill?
Aye.
Counselor Caprioli?
Aye.
I guess it's 6-1.
Yep.
6-1 on that, okay, on Jerry, okay.
Okay, Richard Elbrin, 2-year term. To expire
May 2007.
Okay.
Please call the roll.
Okay, yep, just a moment, I'm trying to keep track here, second. Okay. Counselor Hart?
Aye.
Counselor Morrison?
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamill?
Nay.
Counselor Glennon?
Aye.
Counselor Jarvis?
Aye.
Counselor Hamill, Jerry Hamill?
Nay.
Counselor Caprioli?
Aye.
5-2.
5-2. Okay.
Michael Pelzar, 2-year term to expire May 2007.
Roll call. Counselor Hart.
No.
Counselor Morrison.
Nay.
Counselor Bill Hamel.
Question, this is who, Pelzer?
Michael.
Mike? Aye.
Counselor Glennon.
Nay.
Counselor Jarvis.
Nay.
Counselor Jerry Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Caprioli.
Nay.
2-5.
2 to 5. Again, okay, 2 to 5, okay. So 2 in favor, 5 opposed, okay.
Michael Provo,
That's for a 1-year term?
Yep.
for a 1-year term, yeah. That's what he was nominated for.
Okay, just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Okay, Counselor Hart.
Nay.
Counselor Morrison.
Nay.
Counselor Will Hamel.
Nay.
Counselor Glennon.
Aye.
Counselor Jarvis.
Nay.
Counselor Jerry Hamel.
Nay.
Counselor Caprioli.
Nay.
Motion carries 6 to 1. Well, not motion carries 6 to 1.
1 to 6.
1 to 6.
1 to 6, excuse me.
Edward Pelzar, 3-year term to expire May 2008. Call the roll.
Counselor Hart.
Aye.
Counselor Morrison.
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Glennon.
Aye.
Counselor Jarvis.
Aye.
Counselor Jerry Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Caprioli.
Aye.
Okay, that's 7-0. So you have Jerry Hamel for a 1-year term, is that correct?
Yep.
You have
Rich
Richard
Alpern for the 2-year,
And then Pelzar.
and you have Ed Pelzar for the 3.
Anything happens in the next year, I'd like a space with a view. Waterfront?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's good to have property.
Okay, next item. Veterans, oh, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we add to the workshop agenda for June to discuss amending the committee to 5 members.
I'll second that.
Second.
Okay,
Jen Jarvis.
Jen Jarvis. Any discussion? All those in favor? I mean, call the roll.
Counselor Hart.
Aye.
Counselor Morrison.
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Glennon.
Aye.
Counselor Jarvis.
Aye.
Counselor Hamel. Jerry
Aye.
Hamel. Counselor Caprioli.
Aye.
Carried.
Okay, next item, Veterans Memorial Trust. Candidate Carl Gilbert, term expires May 2008.
I make a motion to nominate Carl Gilbert for the Veterans Memorial Trust with a term expiring May 2008.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Can you call the roll?
Any other nominations?
Hart.
Oh, any other nominations?
Aye.
Counselor Morrison.
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Glennon.
Aye.
Counselor Jarvis.
Aye.
Counselor Jerry Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Caprioli.
Aye.
Carried.
Okay, Zoning Board of Adjustment, candidate Richard Shelton, term expires May 2008. Is there a nomination for Mr. Shelton?
I will make that motion to nominate Richard Shelton to a term expiring May 2008.
I'll second.
Second.
Any other nominations? Hearing none? Please call the roll.
Counselor Hart.
Aye.
Counselor Morrison.
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel.
Aye.
Counselor Glennon.
Aye.
Counselor Jarvis.
Aye.
Counselor Jerry Hamel.
Aye.
Caprioli.
Aye.
Carried.
Next item is discussion regarding Follett's Brook.
Leo.
Oh, boy.
Ryan, you wanted this put on the agenda.
Okay. I do. I want to make sure, and I talked to Mary Kerr last week, and she said that she's had no response from Frank Richardson. She said she was going to email Frank and CC you and me. I never got that email. and I emailed her yesterday and said, what's going on? So I'm concerned that we're going to miss the construction season this year. And if we don't get the DS response soon, we're not going to be able to redo that without the permit, and then we're going to be getting heat from DES. So I'm wondering if you have any new knowledge about where the permit is, and then assuming we get the permit, what's the construction period, time frame, and how much it's going to cost, because I don't think the town crew can do it. From the discussions I had with Al and their work schedule, and the fact that we don't have the permit yet, if we get the permit in July, then they got to get ready. We're running out of time for the town crew to do it. So if we don't have the town crew, we need to discuss and go out to bid, get ready to go out to bid for a company to come in and do it. Because we definitely want to get it done this summer/fall, right?
Yes.
So. Your thoughts?
Well,
About pressure.
I don't know why. I just come back from up Maine and truck ride, and I felt good when I left. When I got back to Newmarket, it felt terrible.
Oh.
Yep.
That's Newmarket for you.
That's what 5 days of fishing does for you. I just got back today and I looked at my email and I saw the one from Mary and the one that she wrote to Frank Richardson, wondering where things stand. My hope was, when we talked a month or so ago about getting the wells put in, that would be a start and be about a month. But other than that, I think that I would like to suggest that the Falls Brook Restoration Committee get together with Al and with Public Works and whatever, and we have a series of discrete tasks that have to be done. And I think we ought to, with Public Works knowledge and everything, put together a list of estimated times to do these tasks, the order they should be done in, and who's going to do them, and a rough cost of what it's going to take. I think that could be done in a few-hour meeting, and then when the permit comes, it's not going to be, at least from what we can see now, it's not going to be one continuous job. It's going to be a day or two taking down the beaver dams, a 4 or 5 days building the road up, and in order to get to the culvert, replacing the culvert may be a couple, 3-day job. Putting the diversion stream down alongside, that may be 4 or 5 days of work. Then cleaning the brook out could be 2, 3, 4 days of work. And then restoring the filter bed could be a week and a half's work. But there will be, the way I look at it, it's going to be some periods of time for when you take the dams down before all the water gets out. By the time you put the diversion stream in and the culvert in, you may have to settle for a few weeks to dry out before you can actually get into the sedimentation area to get that cleaned out. But I don't think it's going to be the type thing where it's going to be feasible to just go in and start working from the beginning to the end, because the soil is not going to be suitable to do that. You're going to have to allow it to settle, to dry, and so I would suggest that is to break down all the tasks that you think you want to do, estimate how much time it's going to take, estimate who's going to do it, and the cost, give it back to the council and see what they want to do. If that's the way you want to approach it, or do you want to, whatever.
Can I ask a question for Rick? What you just outlined, Leo, roughly is like 20 to 30 days of work. Actual days out there, it sounded like to me, adding up the numbers. with a couple weeks of rain and breaks and
All
drying out.
all of that.
Right. So, Rick, what is this? Does the town crew have capacity to do that this summer, fall, with the other projects you have to do?
We could probably do it.
What
It would depend on the weather, and we got the sidewalk in Elm Street to do, got some pavement projects coming up, we've got a lot of water line replacement to do. I think we could possibly do it, but
I guess I just want to make sure that we do it, and it doesn't really matter to me if the town crew does it or not. I want to make sure it gets done because I don't want to miss the chance to do it this year. If we miss the chance before winter, we're in trouble.
Yeah, I don't think there's basically any deadline that this has to be done by. It should be done by September anyways. And then after it's done, then it's gonna be, there's a lot of things we really don't know what we're gonna run into, okay? So,
Well, once it's done, Leo, like once it's in place, like September, October, do we start getting drinking water then?
no. I think you're gonna start collecting the water, pulling it into the station and see whether it's gonna be treatable or not by October, November, of that period of time. And I think the question that we really don't know is how much well water we're gonna be able to mix in with the Forest Brook water to increase its quality. You know, if we're taking 200 gallons a minute out of Forest Brook and we put 200 gallons a minute in from wells, that would improve the quality of the water tremendously, so we'd have to use way less chemicals and stuff to that effect. But I guess before we really know, we're gonna have to see how much water we're gonna be able to get from the wells and how we're gonna get it into the plant. I'll talk something about point source collection and putting it into the water. Well, we don't have to put it into the brook, we can put it right into the manhole. So that would not be putting water, point source water into a brook, but be putting it into a manhole, which is part of our system. But until we get someone up there and put a few wells in and see how much we're going to be able to get out of it, and this fall we should know.
Thank you.
You don't look unconcerned anymore.
I'm still concerned, very concerned. And it's not because of Leo's work or anything.
Right, right.
We
It's
don't have
just
a
the time.
permit from DES. We can't do any of that work out there except for the beaver dam removal.
I think we can put the wells in.
Well, yeah, but that-
As
but-
well, because I don't think we're going to be going into the wetlands. We're going to use our existing road.
Yeah.
We may have to,
I consider the wells separate because unless we are taking less than 57,000 gallons from each well, it's gonna take a year before those wells are being
I
used.
agree, I agree.
So
Before we
we're-
get our major groundwater and a new source,
Permits, yeah.
I don't,
And
I think the major groundwater withdrawals you need, even if you're going to put it into your manhole.
Oh, yeah, unless you're under
But
57,000
I
gallons.
don't think you have to go through your new source permit, except if you're going to pipe it directly from the wells into your system. So that's a second step. But to me, I feel if we could get the wells pumping and pumping them into a manhole and treating it into the plant, that would give us months to see the quantity of water we can get out of these wells and the quality of the water. And then it would be a second step down the road is if there's enough worthwhile to pump it directly into the system or not. And that's going to be a financial consideration.
The request for proposal, has that gone out for the wells?
No, I just got it completed and handed it to Leo.
But it's all set to go?
Well, with some input from Leo, some
Okay.
dates and things.
And we should be able to do that in the next day or two.
Okay.
That doesn't have to come back to us, right?
No, I don't believe so. You do
Fine
authorize
with
it.
me.
You people have authorized. Oh, I don't know.
We're just gonna get once we get the proposals, we'll look at them and decide who to hire.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Leo.
Town administrators report.
I think I won't go over my report itself. However, in my report, I indicated that that I did communicate with the Thompsons regarding setting up an evening meeting. I did download this today, so they've suggested either June 2nd or June 9th. Obviously, June 9th would be a good date.
Thompsons?
Yeah, the Thompsons.
Lions
And
Lane.
I'd post that as a meeting.
What was that date?
June 9th, in the evening.
Thursday?
Is that a Thursday?
Yeah, it is.
Yes, it is.
What time?
Next Thursday.
Well, 6 o'clock probably, 6:30. I guess we can even go into 7. It's, you know, it's
Can we
it's
do
light.
6:30, because I get out of work at 5:30 by the time I get home.
6:30 is fine for me. Thompson, Thomp.
Yep.
Yes.
I might be late. We're not there.
You want to say 7?
No. It's fine if nope.
6:30.
Does that work for everyone, June 9th?
Right on site, and then I guess we'll have to convene back here and look at the video. We can't pretty well, yeah, it's pretty hard.
Well,
to
they
do
have a
that.
copy of the video right there.
What's the address?
Yeah, but council meeting, I think we come back here, not go in their living room.
What?
Yeah.
What's the address number?
What's the number?
9?
9 Langs Lane?
Is it 9?
109.
109.
I was gonna say 9 would be somewhere.
It's just above Merrill Lane. It's Merrill Lane is on the left, and it's just above on the right.
Okay.
And that's coming off of Grant Road, excuse me.
Okay.
So, 6:30 on the 9th, I'll post the meeting. The demolition is going, I think, pretty good up on the Quonset buildings. Tonight, under old business, I guess, I provided you or we could do it under my report, with a copy of the legal opinion on the Lionel Labonte appointment to Black Bear. So that's outstanding. The letter clearly indicates that there would be no conflict of interest. It's an advisory body, it's a policy body.
This just doesn't make sense. I'm sorry.
So the legislation itself says major landowners.
Well, I know what the legislation says. I'm not arguing that point. The point is, he owns the property in question, and he's on the board. That's my point.
And I guess, unless anyone has some questions on, like, had in the report, or there's some items that I
Yeah, I have a
didn't
question.
touch on.
Oops, I'm sorry. I have a question.
Go ahead, Councilor Glenn.
This is actually to Rick. Rick, when do you think we might see that sign up on Spring Street and Elm Court?
Stop sign?
Yeah.
It went up beginning of the week, last week.
Oh, is that what you have?
It's up.
Oh, thank you.
I think I
Very
indicated
efficient.
that it would be, but.
Today, yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any questions from anyone else?
I guess I would just highlight again that we have covered all the red ink in our estimates up to 208, including the 5% escalator clause and all our funding sources for the Phase 2. The extra $374,000 approval. Now, also, I'd like to touch on one other thing. I am preparing a response right now to DES Water Division. They're critical of us for not having a meaningful alternative or proposal for the voters to vote on this May on our water. And they are stated that they, if we do not have a meaningful proposal put before the voters to vote on, regardless of what they do, voted up or down, next May, they will consider possible implementation of moratorium and connections and things like that. At this time, I think that's remote because our wells are at an all-time high. They're very healthy. And the way the weather has been, it looks like we will sustain ourselves very well. And I look at that from the viewpoint that we went through some of the worst droughts in 25 years, and DES officials agree on a prolonged period in the last 25 years in the late 90s, early 2000s. And we did that without implementing any kind of conservation measures at that time. Were they at low levels? Yes, but we didn't have to implement any kind of conservation measures, and that was a prolonged period. So our wells are healthier than they've been since the 70s.
Okay,
I have a question on that note.
go ahead, Dana.
Al, we're still in the category 4, right?
Yes.
Okay. This is a question that was asked to me by one of the neighbors. And I don't know how to answer it. It makes a lot of sense what they're saying. The question is, how can you tell me, not me, but how can you tell me as a taxpayer that we're at a level 4 and I can't water my lawns, but you have all this construction going on and the 108 where the Cheney's is building, and then there's talk about development going off of Dame Road, and all these other developments coming in, but I, as a taxpayer, cannot use the water. But we're going to allow development to come in and allow them to use, hook up to our water system when we already are in this category 4.
You're posing that question to me like I'm the one granting the approvals, which I'm not.
He's not on the planning board.
So is it the planning board that puts the level 4 in place?
No, we put the level 4
We
in
do, the
place.
council does.
Right.
But I didn't understand that to be your question.
Well, the question is, we are, the council has said we're at a level 4. And then you have a situation, I guess you're correct, it goes to the planning board that allows all this development coming in, but the council's saying, we're at a level 4, you can't water your lawns, you can't wash your cars, you can't do any of that. A little ironic here.
That's why the planning board has an ordinance that they're working on to restrict where new places can go, that we directed them to do.
So do we still have to be in the category 4 now?
We probably go to a 3, but I think it's good water management. I mean, I just, with all the rain, I don't see a need for people to wash their cars or water the lawn.
No, I agree with that, but I mean, the rain is healthy right now, but let's say we go 3 or 4 weeks, we get little rain, but our wells are still good. I guess I'd like to see that restriction dropped a little bit in when we have the healthy water. I mean, you just said a couple of years ago when there was a drought, we didn't implement any of those. And yet we have it at a level 4 now, we've had plenty of rain. See my point?
The only thing I can say, I think it's important, penny wise, pound foolish, and an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And what we're trying to do right now is make sure that there is good potable water delivered in every tap at any time, and 12 months of the year. We could remove the ban. If it doesn't rain like it has been, your consumption will go up 100 to 150,000 gallons, proven, per day, just by a simple lift. Can we afford it? Probably. Should we do it? I think not. I think that people will be very disappointed if they go to their tap and there's no water, or they go to the flush and they want to flush their flush and there's no flushing capability or shower. Now, that sounds terrible, but Dana, we can laugh about that. A few years ago, everybody was running around like Chicken Little, the sky's falling. We got to do conservation right away because the wells are going to give up any day. I wasn't necessarily that concerned at that point, because we had gone through that 5-year period and not kind of, but people were concerned, and we reacted to those concerns, and then we implemented the conservation program at the will of the state. They wanted towns, and during the drought period where they declared statewide drought emergencies, they required the communities to develop water management programs, and we were one of the first ones. Now, as far as other communities, Seabrook, and we've talked about this in the past, has had an outside water ban for as long as I've been here. It's their business, but, I mean, again, they are concerned about having potable water, shower water, flush water, what have you, in the taps of the people when they turn it on. And I think that should be our primary concern. I don't think we should sit down and say we're fat, dumb, and happy right now.
No, I just see the irony that, and again, it's not ours, it's the planning board, but it doesn't make sense. You're gonna allow the growth here, you're gonna squash the water use over here.
Well, they're not doing something about it, and in order to tell people they can't build or develop here, you have to have a growth moratorium. That's the only way you can stop. You can't just.
You need to look at
One
it.
other issue, if I could point out, I
Yes.
discussed it in depth, George Laney and I did with Bob Mann and Brandon Kernan from DES, the implications of a water ban or moratorium, okay? A moratorium, not a ban. And basically, any approvals that we have that are in the system will still go with a moratorium. And if they didn't, we'd be in court and probably lose to the developers. So anything that's in the pipeline is going to be approved. And right now, most of our connections are going offline, basically. Hmm? Most of the new development. In fact, I think pretty near all the new development in the last several years has been off the system.
Is Bennett Way one of those? They have their own one?
That's not,
They already had those.
they already had the approvals.
Well, no, I mean, but that's town water though, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. And what about Walter Genie's 108 project?
That was new.
That was new.
But I don't know if he held a water permit already that he could have used.
I don't know on that.
Can you switch and change
I
them?
think not. I think
Oh.
not.
Okay. Well, that was his property. Actually, there's town water going to the houses he knocked down there, so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bigger use, but.
Bigger use.
It was still
Change
being
of use.
used.
Okay.
Counselor Jarvis?
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Tom?
No, if I missed anything, remind me. It's been hectic for the staff and everybody.
Yeah, I know, and I know you're working on, the budget,
Oh, financials, yeah,
yeah.
if you want to.
So, do you want to do this in a workshop, at the June workshop?
I think
discuss
it might be better for us. I can tell you that I have looked at the budget. It doesn't surprise me anything at this point in time. Fire department and public works seem to be strained. Fire department is strained because we're supporting three buildings at this point, heat and electricity, which we didn't budget for. Public Works is somewhat the same, but the big strain there was the winter sand, winter salt. And the legal fees are strained, and it looks like if we continue at the same pace, we'll be about 18 to 20,000 overexpended there. The good news is, perhaps we will not have, for the first time in several years, an overexpenditure in general assistance to people. Now, it's too early for me to tell, because these are the April reports, if I'll be able to cover all the overages in Public Works and, let's say, Fire at this point with other departments. I'm looking at it as I will be able to cover some of it. Maybe I'll be able to cover it all. I don't know. But that's where we're at. And just to remind you a little bit, the fire department lost a member who lost his battle to cancer, and Chief Mulaski spoke to me, and obviously there's serious ramifications for everyone within the department. They're close and everything, and it's it required a little additional expense, and I authorized him to incur that expense to, for this individual's funeral.
What was the expense?
And the young man was very well liked. He was very, very active in the department. And like I said, he was a young man. He lost his fight with cancer. Rick, would you want to introduce the member that just recently passed?
Bob DuPont, south of Hilton Drive.
I read about that in the paper.
He was 36.
He was training also with Marty, wasn't he, on the alarm systems and
Yeah.
installation?
He took over the fire alarm system, so.
Did we cover the cost of the funeral?
No. There was
No.
expenses that a department would do for a departed member of the department.
Can you elaborate?
Rick can get into that.
What is it? How much was it? Are we talking about?
Could I provide that in the form of a memo or something
Yes,
instead of
yes.
getting into
Okay.
that?
Okay, thank you. I was just curious.
Counselor Hart?
Al, I looked at the budget and I talked to Lorianne, and I think that's why she brought it up. And this is the first time I'm staggered by the overages in so many different departments. I mean, 200%, 199%, 269%, 310%. And I got to tell you that part of my thought is that some of the expenditures, and I'm concerned that expenses related to the new construction of the fire rescue public works building were put into the budget instead of being from the capital expenditure. And that's the only way I can see how we are so far over on certain areas.
Absolutely not. I can say, we went through this, and you're talking about the overages and everything. Let's just take them.
Well, we don't have to do it now, but Al, at the end of the year, we shouldn't be over budget and all this stuff, and it's like, boom, we're looking at this, and we're at 90% in 2 different departments, and there's 2 months left.
You're at 90%.
It makes me really nervous.
You're at 90% in fire rescue, and you're at 90% in the buildings and ground. And one of the big things in both of those accounts has been the fuel.
Yep, I saw that.
All right?
But
And
there's still huge areas where there's double what we budgeted, 3 times what we budgeted. Town hall maintenance, we budgeted 4,000 and we're at 14.
that's, yes.
I'm just saying-
That doesn't have anything to do with the capital improvements of the
Well, I'm just
public
bringing
works
that up
building.
as an
Yep.
example.
I went through everything. I got printouts for every sheet. We can discuss it in detail.
Vehicle maintenance, overall, we're over 100% right now.
Yep.
We still got 2 months left.
Absolutely. And
Sounds
vehicle-
like maybe we need to
Vehicle
blow a
maintenance
couple
and-
cars up. instead of-
Vehicle maintenance is when we plow the roads. The more you plow, the bigger that bill is. And unless you don't plow.
I think maybe we need to start doing quarterly reviews again of the budget, which we kind of neglected to do before.
Well, we provided you the monthly reports and everything.
To schedule it at a meeting for quarterly review, so we can stay on top of it. I just have a sense at the end of the year, we're gonna be over budget, overall. And I know that some of it, like the road sand and salt, obviously you can't, I'm not advocating we don't spend that money.
Well, on the fire department, I can tell you that if you look at it, I'm paying for the heat at the old ambulance garage, the old fire station, we can't turn the heat off. We don't have it set at 70 degrees anymore, but, vehicle maintenance, that A1 is out of service more than it is in service, and we're in the process of replacing that. That's where a lot of that money went.
In the area of fuel and electricity in the fire department, you got $18,000 overdraft.
Let's just discuss it at the workshop.
Okay.
It's way too
Can I
late.
make a comment?
Go ahead.
We're projecting a surplus of $125,000 that we were going to use for the new communication system. Is that what that money was coming from?
No, that was from the existing,
Balance.
the existing fund balance.
The existing fund balance. Thank you for that.
We will be in the black overall. We will have areas of overdraft, there's no question. And those areas of overdraft have been known for some time in the area of public works. I wasn't aware that we would be this close on fire. Fire is a new one, but if you look at it, there's $18,000 there in the area of fuels and electricity. You remove that, and we would make it without any problem for the rest of the year. Because basically what we got left is salaries, correct?
Yes.
To the
And-
tune of $4,000 to $6,000 a month.
I got one other little bit of information for you. We're at 800 calls to date.
Which
and
is,
if you look at a year ago, we were at 660.
Oh, wow.
So that's a big increase, too.
in the area of salaries.
I mean, I can't predict that, but
But your income
that
also,
affects medical supplies, that affects,
Okay.
Yep.
you know, it affects a lot of things.
and then on the other hand, our income for the ambulance is $3,000 over budget right now, too, and will be much more over budget by the time the year ends. So, we're doing that. Now, the other area that we knew was going to be in trouble was legal.
Yeah.
So there's the three areas, or two areas we knew. The ambulance and fire is going to be very tight.
What about welfare?
Can I? call
Welfare,
the
I don't think will
lights on?
exceed.
Can I, go ahead, Council Morrison.
I actually think I might be jumping the gun a bit. Are we done with number 7?
Yes,
Budget?
we're on,
I was just gonna move that
well, I brought it up in his monthly report, but you can move. Go
I was
ahead.
gonna,
We discussed it at the workshop.
yep, and to move number 8 to, it's getting kinda late.
Yep. So,
That's a little thing, and those things take days to talk about.
So
Councilor
you're going to
Morrison.
act on, are you going to act on the, under old business, the appointment?
No, I was just saying we could maybe do
What?
the video.
The TIF.
Lionel Labonte.
Oh, yeah. Well, I thought the motion that was made last time was that he would be appointed if pending legal review.
Yeah.
I thought it was.
Yeah.
So it's automatic?
It's automatic.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Done. I thought it had to be voted.
All right, back to the motion. So Brian Morrison is making a motion to discuss the budget at the June workshop.
And I think you were saying table the web video script.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to write this down so I don't miss what's gonna be on that agenda.
Sorry, Mike.
Budget, the June workshop, final scripts. And that's it. Is there any other new business that people were gonna discuss? Oh, well, first we need to have a second. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Hart. Discussion? Can you call the roll?
Counselor Hart?
Aye.
Counselor Morrison?
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel?
Aye.
Counselor Glennon?
Aye.
Counselor Jarvis?
Aye.
Counselor Hamel?
Aye.
Counselor Jerry Hamel? Counselor Calparelli?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, new business. Is there any new business that can go to the workshop? I'll put it on the agenda.
Well, could we say, I need to have some guidance from you sometime soon, whenever you're ready, on the Russo property. What are we gonna do there? How are we gonna handle, what are we gonna liquidate? I
What
would
do you
like to
mean?
have some input from
Can
you.
you say that again?
On the Russo property down in Packers Falls,
Yeah.
we retain, well, we were gonna sell the house, and
Has it gone through subdivision process yet?
it's going, it's in the process, but I think we should talk about sometime soon the process we're gonna use, because that's gonna take another 60 to 90 days.
Could that work, would it work for you if it was at the June workshop?
Oh, absolutely, I'm just saying. And then the DPW building, what type of uses do you want there? Start thinking about it. You know, it lends itself, we had it rented this winter for a period of time as a garage. It lends itself to that specific thing, but I think some people have a problem with that. So let me know if we're gonna if I'm gonna re-advertise that, what type of uses you feel are gonna be acceptable that council will embrace.
Okay, so we could do that at the June
Yes.
workshop, too. All right. Counselor Hart.
A quick thing, I was wondering if the council would be amenable to us approaching the Seacoast Farmers Market or Farm Growers Association about having a farmers market in Newmarket.
Yes.
And if we did approach them, it wouldn't be till next year. And the site that I'm thinking would be the library, Elm Street parking / Quonset Hut parking lot.
I like the idea.
They used to have one,
Yeah, they said that, I talked to the person,
the waterfront, I think.
Yeah, it was, yeah, you're right.
I think this location would be great because they can put signs and all the through traffic can see it, which they'll like. And it'll be a big spot with lots of parking spots, hopefully. So I'll contact them Okay, and see what they say. I'm not sure if it costs money. The other thing I wanted to say is I think we should take up for discussion, not tonight, the letter from Portsmouth Mayor Evan Sorrell about the shipyard, and write a letter in support to President Bush, or discuss it at least.
Aren't they looking for money?
And the other thing is the Johnson lawsuit. We need to meet. I think we need to meet with the attorney. We got that letter requesting our response. I know that's old business, but I'm sneaking it in because we need to discuss it.
Can
soon.
you call Malcolm's office and find out if we could do a non-public on the 15th with them?
Yep.
We have to do a special meeting last one, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, we could do that too.
Because we have the 6:30 site walk at the Simon's Lane, then we come here at 7. And we can't do Malcolm at 6.
Okay.
See you. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I just one thing to add.
Yep, go ahead.
I mean, if we could do a maybe
I'm
a
sorry, you can't go. It's
can
Jen's
go.
turn.
That's what I'm gonna say is better after what I'm gonna
Okay,
say.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Which one?
You.
Maybe we could do a show of hands if everybody's in favor of Al drafting a letter to President Bush in favor of keeping the shipyard open, I assume. Maybe we could do that. You
What
could get-
Brian just said?
Just drafting a letter of support in support of the shipyard staying open, addressing it to George Bush.
I thought Brian already did that.
Did you?
I'm fine with making the motion that
Oh, okay.
I'll second that.
Yeah, I mean, just if we can do it.
Okay. Any discussion?
Well,
The thing is, I didn't want to talk about it at all.
Call the roll.
Counselor Hart?
Aye.
Counselor Morrison?
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel?
Aye.
Counselor Glennon?
Aye.
Counselor Jarvis?
Aye.
Counselor Karen Hamel?
Aye.
Counselor Caparelli?
Aye.
Sorry.
Counselor Jarvis.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you so much.
Second.
What about the non-public for Verizon?
oh, no,
No
not
way.
tonight.
We weren't gonna do that tonight.
No.
What?
I told them we probably wouldn't do. I said something about
Aye.
the 15th.
Oh, I thought we didn't even finish the NCDC stuff.
Right.
I'm not suggesting we do, don't worry.
Pipe down over there.
Right, go home.
Just for information. Just information, you don't have to discuss it.
Oh, what is
The
it?
business.
So I seconded Jen's motion to adjourn.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No.
I'll call a
Madam
roll.
Chair, I'm trying to help you.
Go ahead.
Counselor Hart?
Aye.
Counselor Morrison?
Aye.
Counselor Will Hamel?
Aye.
Counselor Glennon?
Aye.
Counselor Jarvis?
Aye.
Counselor Karen Hamel?
Aye.
Counselor
Aye.